Welcome to the journey of stillness and letting go, where every breath opens a door to peace. Tonight, amidst gentle sounds and the flowing rhythm of Zen Stories, we will dive into a theme that most of us struggle with: control. We spend our whole lives trying to hold on to everything: our work, our loved ones, our relationships, even our own emotions. We believe that if we hold tight enough, if we plan carefully enough, life will obey. But the harder we try to control, the more exhausted we become. Because the tighter we grip, the less freedom we have. Letting go is not giving up. It is a form of deep wisdom when we realize that this universe has its own order, a perfect process beyond human control. Letting go is not weakness. It is trusting in the Dharma, trusting that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. The so-called illusion of control is the root of anxiety, because we keep trying to change what was never ours to control. When we learn to flow with life instead of forcing it, when we stop and let life move on its own, our minds become lighter and our breaths grow deeper. That is the beginning of true freedom. Freedom from the fear of not being in control. And now, to begin this journey, let us listen to a Zen story. The story of a disciple who tried to control the stream by tying a rope to the waterfall, only to be pulled backward the tighter he held. Until Master Rinko taught him, you cannot control water with a rope. You can only understand its direction. A simple teaching, yet one that opens the deepest door to inner freedom. Have you ever noticed that the more you try to control something, the further it slips from your hands? We want everything to go our way, people to understand us, life to be smooth, time to obey. But the harder we grasp, the more everything slips away, like water flowing through our fingers. Human beings have a deep habit: the fear of uncertainty. We think that if we don't control things, everything will collapse. But is that really true? Or is it that our struggle for control makes us weary and takes away the natural flow of life? The Buddha taught, when one tries to cling, one forgets the truth of impermanence. And sometimes it is only when we let go that everything finds its perfect order. The story begins one morning at an old Zen monastery on a mountain slope, where a waterfall flowed all year long, its sound echoing like the breath of the earth. There, a young student came to Master Rinko with a question that had long troubled him. How can I stop being afraid when things go beyond my control? That morning, mist covered the bamboo hills. The sound of the waterfall blended with the temple bell ringing through the fog like an ancient breath. The young man approached his shoulders, tense eyes filled with worry. He bowed and said softly, "Master, life feels like a raging river. I try to keep everything steady, but the harder I try, the more tangled it becomes. I can't control it anymore. What must I do to make things go my way?" Master Rinko looked at him quietly, his eyes calm like a still lake. He said only, "Follow me." They left the monastery, walking down a mossy stone path behind the temple. The sound of water grew louder, mist brushing their faces. Before them, the waterfall roared down from the cliff, white and powerful. The master picked up a rope, tied one end to a tree, and handed the other end to his student. "Try to control the flow of water with this rope." The student froze, puzzled, but obeyed. He threw the rope toward the waterfall, held and tried to grip tighter. Water splashed everywhere, the rope shook violently. He tightened his grip, but the current dragged him forward. His feet slipped, he fell drenched and breathless. The master stood silently watching. When the student was exhausted and finally let go, the rope fell to the ground. The master smiled gently. "What did you see?" The student gasped for air, voice trembling. "I saw that no matter how hard I held on, the water still flowed its own way. The harder I tried, the more I was pulled back." The master nodded, eyes filled with compassion. "Exactly. You cannot control water with a rope. You can only understand its flow and move with it." He sat by the stream, picked up a small leaf, and placed it gently on the surface. The leaf spun lightly, then drifted away with the current, not resisting, not forcing. Under the morning sun, it sparkled like a star, traveling between water and sky. Do you see? The leaf does nothing. It gives no orders to the water, nor does it try to escape it. Yet it reaches where it needs to be. The student was silent. The breeze passed through the bamboo forest, birds sang above. In that moment he felt all sounds, the water, the wind, the distant bell merge into one. "Master," he whispered, "does letting go mean doing nothing?" The master shook his head. "No, letting go is not helplessness. Letting go is the absence of resistance. You still act, still live fully, but with the understanding that there is a larger flow at work. You simply move with it." He looked toward the horizon where the fog was lifting over the hills. The one who tries to command the wind will always tire, but the one who listens to the wind will fly with it. The student bowed. Something within him softened, as light as morning mist, as calm as the water, now whispering instead of raging. And from that moment, he understood freedom is not in holding on, but in knowing when to release. In life, we are like that student. We hold countless invisible ropes, ropes of control, anxiety, expectations, and fear. We believe that if we pull harder, we can keep love, work, youth, or peace. But the Buddha taught all phenomena are impermanent. This is not just philosophy, it is a map to freedom. Because once we see that everything changes, we stop trying to keep things still. Trying to hold on to water only wets our hands, but when we release it, we can finally feel its coolness. In Zen, control is a form of fear. Fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of pain, fear of not being enough. The more restless the mind, the more it wants to control. Yet the moment we try to control, we lose the ability to live in the present. Modern psychology says the same. When we attempt to control everything, the brain enters a fight or flight mode. Energy shifts to resistance instead of creativity. But when we let go, the nervous system moves into rest and digest. Breath returns, the body relaxes, and the mind opens. As Zen teaches, letting go is not losing, it is opening. Opening the space for Dharma to reveal itself, for life to unfold naturally. Master Rinko did not teach his student to give up life. He taught him to give up the illusion that he could control it. Because only when we stop trying to dominate can we merge with life's flow, like wind through the forest, like water returning to the sea. Each day, we can see those ropes of control everywhere. We try to make others love us in our way. We plan a perfect future. We resist the unexpected. But the more we do, the more anxious, disappointed, and exhausted we become. Letting go does not mean surrender. It means recognizing that life has its own wisdom. We can plant the seed, but we cannot command the rain. We can care for the flower, but we cannot make it bloom on our schedule. The Buddha said, "When the mind is peaceful, the world is peaceful." When the mind no longer resists, every situation becomes lighter. If you've ever lost sleep from overthinking, look closer. Is there a rope in your mind? The need to be perfect? The fear of losing control? Loosen it. Let life flow through instead of fighting it. Like the student by the waterfall. When he let go of the rope, the water still flowed, but his mind was at peace. Modern science confirms that letting go of control through meditation and mindful breathing lowers cortisol levels, balances heart rate, and improves sleep and focus. It's no coincidence. Because when we stop struggling, life energy flows freely again. When night falls, instead of trying to force sleep, just sit quietly. Listen to your breath as if listening to the waterfall in the story. If a thought carries you away, don't fight it. Don't hold it. Simply know that it is flowing like water passing through the river. Letting go is not loss, it is return. When you stop controlling your breath, it deepens naturally. When you stop forcing your mind to be calm, it finds peace on its own. When you stop gripping life too tightly, its true beauty reveals itself. That's why Zen reminds us, don't try to change the river, learn how to swim in it. Life does not need your control, only your presence. And likewise, there are those who spend their whole lives trying to block the wind, to protect the garden of their hearts from disturbance. But the wind cannot be stopped, and leaves must fall as a natural part of life. The next story tells of another Zen master who once built walls around his garden to keep the wind out, only to realize that the wind was not coming from outside, but from within his own mind. A story that will help you see when the mind stops resisting the world, becomes still on its own. Have you ever felt exhausted from fighting against things you cannot change? We want the rain to stop when we have somewhere to go. We want others to understand us even when we don't speak. We want the world to be calm, just as we wish it to be. But life never caters to anyone's desires. The more we try to stop the wind, the stronger it blows. The more we fear disorder, the more restless our hearts become. Deep inside, each of us builds a wall of our own constructed from expectations, fears, and the obsession with keeping everything intact. But no matter how high or wide we build it, the smallest breeze still finds its way through. And when the wind won't stop, we grow angry. When leaves continue to fall, we feel helpless. The Buddha taught that suffering does not come from the external world, but from the way we resist it. Like a lake, when you stir it, the reflection of the sky disappears. But when the water becomes still again, the sky and clouds return on their own. So instead of asking how to stop the wind, ask yourself, why are you afraid of its coming? Long ago, in a monastery nestled on the mountainside, the seasons changed like the breath of the earth. Every morning there was a soft serenity, the first rays of sunlight passing through the bamboo grove, dewdrops falling onto the porch, and the distant temple bell fading into the wind, scented with sap and wildflowers. The monastery seemed to breathe in rhythm with the world, slowly, peacefully, and quietly. But one autumn, the wind became different, stronger, more persistent. Golden leaves filled the courtyard, covered the porch, and even blew into the meditation hall. Disciples swept endlessly, yet each time they finished, another gust would come, and the courtyard would once again be covered with the rustling of dry leaves. Master Yuan, who had lived there for over 30 years, watched with growing frustration. He loved order, calmness, the perfect stillness when everything was in its place. But now, not a single morning stayed spotless. One day, watching the wind swirl around the Buddha statue, he sighed, "If only I could stop the wind, everything would be peaceful again." So the next day, he ordered his disciples to build a stone wall around the garden. When the wind is blocked, he said, the leaves will no longer fall here. The monastery will be quiet again. The disciples obeyed. They carried heavy mountain stones and built tall, solid walls. After many days, the garden was surrounded like a fortress. And indeed, the wind outside seemed to calm. At first, Master Yuan felt content. Leaves no longer entered the courtyard, incense smoke rose straight upward, and silence returned just as he had always wanted. He believed he had preserved the peace of the world. But soon, something strange happened. The air within the walls grew heavy and stale. Without the wind, the plants began to wither. Petals fell and decayed in place. Incense smoke no longer drifted, but lingered thick and dull, like weary fog. When meditating, he could still hear the wind howling beyond the wall, a sound both near and far, as if mocking the stubbornness of man who tries to control nature. One night, a strong wind rose. He awoke, picked up an oil lamp, and walked into the courtyard. The dim light revealed a small crack between the moss-covered stones. Through it, the wind slipped in, carrying a few dry leaves that fell softly at his feet. The master sat down, picked up one leaf. It was thin, fragile, yet strangely peaceful. The wind brushed through his sleeves and silver hair. He closed his eyes and felt the cool air on his skin. For the first time, he no longer wanted to stop it. In that moment, he realized the wind had never come from outside. It rose from within, from the craving to control, to preserve, to make everything obey. It was that resistance itself that made his world turbulent. The next morning, he gathered his disciples and said, "Take down the wall." They were surprised. "But Master, didn't you just ask us to build it?" He smiled gently. "I was mistaken. Trying to keep out the wind is useless. When the mind stops resisting, the world becomes peaceful on its own." When the wall came down, the wind returned to the garden. Leaves danced through the air. The master took a broom and began sweeping lightly. The wind blew again, scattering more leaves, but this time he only smiled a gentle smile, calm like drifting clouds. From that day, no one ever heard him complain about the wind again. In the afternoons, people often saw him sitting by the porch, eyes half closed, listening to the wind smiling softly, as if conversing with an old friend named Impermanence. The story of Master Yuan is a reflection of the human heart. When we try to stop the wind, we are trying to control life. We build walls of opinions, expectations, and ideals. But like the Master, we eventually learn that the wind cannot be stopped, and the world does not follow our design. The Buddha said, "If the mind is not still even in the deep forest, there will be storms." It means the outer wind does not cause suffering. It is the inner wind of resistance, fear, and dissatisfaction that wearies us. In Zen, there is an important principle: non-resistance. Do not fight, do not force, do not impose on the natural flow of life. When the wind blows, let it blow. When the leaves fall, let them fall. For within each movement lies the perfection of cause and condition. If the mind is calm, even the sound of the wind becomes the voice of Dharma. But if the mind is restless, even a single falling leaf disturbs us. In modern psychology, this is called the illusion of control. When people believe they can control everything, they feel temporarily safe, but the more they cling to that illusion, the more anxious they become. Because in truth, life is always beyond our plans. Only when we understand this can we learn the art of flowing with life, not giving up, but giving up resistance. Master Yuan was not wrong for wanting peace. We all do the same. But only when he tore down the wall did he truly see the nature of the wind-free selfless, belonging to no one. And only then did his heart find peace. In everyday life, we also suffer from such small winds. When someone says something we dislike, we build a wall of defense. When circumstances change, we cling to the past. When things go wrong, we try to fix and control. But life is always moving. To stop the wind is to go against nature. To force stillness is a kind of violence against ourselves. The Buddha said, "One who flows with life no longer suffers." To flow does not mean to surrender, but to understand that everything arises from its own conditions. What we must preserve is not the world, but our awareness within it. Some people come to the Master saying they cannot sleep because their minds are too restless. They try reading music, herbal tea, yet sleep escapes them. The Master asks softly, "How many walls are there in your heart?" For when the mind keeps resisting noise, memories, or tomorrow's worries, how can stillness enter? Sleep-like meditation is not the result of effort, but the fruit of relaxation. Science agrees those who constantly suppress or deny emotions activate the amygdala, the brain's fear center, causing physical tension. But when we breathe with our feelings observing without resistance, the body activates its natural relaxation response. That is the Dharma working within the body, the wisdom of healing without force. So learn from Master Yuan. Instead of blocking the wind, open the wall in your heart. When you open it, the wind can enter, and along with it, light also comes in. Then you will no longer fear the falling leaves, for they are simply returning to the earth, as all things in life eventually do. Tonight, as you sit quietly, listen to the wind outside your window. Do not wish it to soften nor to stop. Just listen, truly listen, as if every breeze were the breath of the universe. If a storm of restlessness rises within you, take a deep breath. Inhale, knowing you are inhaling. Exhale, knowing you are exhaling. That is enough. wind in your heart will slowly settle, not because you forced it, but because you stopped resisting it. When you no longer need the world to go your way, you begin to see its beauty as it is. Like Master Yuan, sitting among fallen leaves, listening to the wind and smiling, that is meditation, the perfect harmony between the human heart and the universe. And when your heart rests like that, sleep will come as gently as a breeze, bringing a peace you no longer have to seek. And so, in this flow of lessons about letting go and surrendering, there comes another story about a young woman rowing a boat through a storm. She grew exhausted, trying to control every wave until she let go of the oar, and the boat found its own way to shore. Another metaphor for trusting life's current when we stop commanding the river life itself carries us to where we are meant to be. There are days when you feel as if you're drifting through a storm. Everything moves too fast and never in your control. Work, love, health, relationships. You try to steer to keep balance to make everything okay. But the harder you try, the stronger the waves grow. The more you want control, the more exhausted you become. And then there comes a moment when you stop, when you have no strength left to fight. Yet strangely, it is in that moment when you stop forcing, stop commanding, stop trying to be in charge, that life begins to return to its natural order. As if an unseen hand has always been holding you, even when you thought you were battling alone, the Buddha taught. The Dharma always moves in the right direction. Only when your mind goes against it do you feel lost. It sounds simple, but to truly understand it, one must first endure many storms. This story begins on a gray afternoon, the sky heavy with clouds. A young woman named Mira, a new meditation student at the monastery, was about to face the storm within her own heart. She didn't yet realize that the storm was not in the sky, but born from her own desire to control the flow of life. That afternoon, rain began to fall, heavy drops striking the surface of the large lake behind the monastery, where a small wooden boat was used to cross to the other shore to collect firewood and water. Waves rose, the sky darkened, and the wind blew hard enough to bend the bamboo by the water's edge. The Zen master gave Mira a seemingly simple task: cross the lake and gather some young bamboo leaves. "We'll use them for tonight's tea meditation." She bowed and accepted, though a flicker of hesitation passed through her. "I'll do it well," she thought. "I don't want the master to think I'm weak." Mira stepped into the boat, her hair soaked by the rain. She gripped the oar and pushed off from the shore. At first, the water only rippled gently, but as she moved farther out, the waves grew rougher. Wind struck her face, rain lashed her robe. She rowed harder and faster, determined to keep the boat on course. But the small boat began to rock violently. Waves tilted it sideways, water spilling in. Mira clenched her teeth, tightening her grip on the oar, desperate to maintain control. "Don't drift. Don't spin," she shouted into the wind. "You have to go straight across." But the wind did not listen. The waves rose higher, and the oar slipped from her hand, vanishing into the water. She lunged forward to retrieve it, but the boat tipped, throwing her off balance. Her breath quickened. Her fingers slid off the wet wood. She trembled, one thought filling her mind. "If I can't control this, the boat will sink. If I let go, I'll die." The wind howled, Her body ached, drained of strength. She collapsed in the bottom of the boat, soaked and shivering, her breath shallow. Amid the rain and waves, all she could hear was her heartbeat and the sound of fear pounding in her chest. Then, something unexpected happened. When she stopped struggling, the waves began to calm. The splashing softened, the wind eased, and the boat stopped spinning. It began to drift slowly, naturally, as if guided by invisible hands. Mira opened her weary eyes. Through the mist and rain, she saw a small light glowing from the monastery porch, a warm flicker amid the storm. The boat, without her control, was gliding toward it. When it reached the shore, Mira stayed seated, letting the rain wash over her face. A strange mix of relief, humility, and peace filled her heart. She realized that only when she stopped commanding the waves, when she stopped trying to control everything, did the boat and her life finally find its way home. That night, rain continued to fall on the temple's old roof. Mira sat quietly by the lamp, smiling faintly. She understood now, sometimes to return to the peaceful shore, you don't need to fight the wind, only to release the oar and trust that the lake knows the way. Mira's story mirrors us all. We believe life is only safe when we're holding the oar, but in truth, the boat of life is always carried by a greater current, the current of karma, of dharma, of natural unfolding. The Buddha said, "In the stream of ignorance, man believes he is the one steering. But when awakened, he sees he has only ever been carried." This doesn't mean surrendering or giving up. It means acting with wisdom without attachment to the outcome. In psychology, there's a term called the control paradox. The more people try to control, the more out of control they feel. Because when the mind insists that everything must go my way, it becomes a prisoner of its own fear. Like Mira, the tighter she held the oar, the further she drifted from the shore. Zen teaches that letting go is not weakness, it is wisdom. That wisdom understands everything is happening exactly as it should. The storm doesn't come to punish it, comes to teach you not to fear the wind. The waves don't come to drown, they remind you of the strength of stillness. A peaceful mind isn't one without disturbance, but one that no longer resists disturbance. Like the lake, when you stop stirring it, it becomes clear. When Mira let go of the oar, she stopped agitating the water with her will and fear, and so the lake cleared and the boat found its direction. Zen says, when you stop grasping all things, return to their rightful place. That is the harmony between action and surrender, between effort and acceptance, between human and life's flow. In daily life, we are all more like Mira than we think. We want to control others' emotions to make work go according to plan, to have happiness arrive on schedule. And when things don't go as we wish, we call it failure. But most suffering doesn't come from events. It comes from resisting them. Like fighting a wave, it's not the wave that exhausts us, but our struggle against it. The Buddha said a peaceful mind is one that flows. To flow is not to be passive. It is to act with awareness, to accept what is, and not turn fear into burden. If you look closely, every anxiety begins with one thought: this shouldn't be happening. But when you face it, without running, without forcing, without grasping, the mind begins to soften. And in that softening, you see clearly life has always been carrying you exactly where you need to go, even if you don't yet understand the path. According to a Stanford University study, people who practice letting go meditation for 21 days showed a 28% decrease in cortisol, the stress hormone. When humans accept rather than resist, their bodies respond with natural peace. It echoes the Buddha's words spoken over 2,000 years ago. When the mind flows in harmony, the body rests in peace. So if one day you find yourself rowing through a storm, stop for a moment. Take a deep breath. Observe what's steering your effort, fear, expectation, or awareness. If it's fear, no matter how hard you row, you'll lose your way. But if it's awareness, even without the oar, you'll find the shore. Tonight, as you lie down, instead of trying to make yourself sleep, just listen to your breath. If your mind is full of waves, work memories, plans, unfinished things, see them as waves upon the surface of water. Don't push them away. Don't try to stop them. Let them come and go. And soon you'll notice a miraculous moment when your mind stops rowing. That is when sleep, like the boat, drifts gently toward the peaceful shore. Letting go is not neglect. It is trust that this life has its own wisdom. When you stop commanding, stop forcing, stop insisting, it must be this way, you open space for the Dharma to unfold. Life knows better than you what needs to come and when. Sometimes you must lose the oar to see that the water is still carrying you. Sometimes you must lose your way to realize that no path was ever wrong. And when Mira returned to the monastery, the morning bell echoed through the air, neither early nor late, but precisely as the sky began to brighten. Just like the rhythm of the Dharma, never off by a second. Only our impatient minds make it seem delayed. The next story tells of a young novice who wanted to make the bell ring exactly at sunrise but forgot to listen to the wind. Then his teacher said, "The bell doesn't need your control. It rings when your heart is still. Do not control the timing, simply be present when it comes." How many times in your life have you felt that you were always too late? Sometimes you fear missing out on an opportunity, a person, a door in life that you believe must be seized quickly before it closes. And sometimes you grow impatient for everything to happen. Now love must come. Success must be achieved. The mind must be calm. Karma must be resolved. But there is a paradox that every practitioner encounters sooner or later. The more you try to be on time, the further you drift from the real moment. The more you rush toward the destination, the more you lose your way. The Buddha taught everything has its own causes, conditions, and timing. You cannot force a flower to bloom, nor can you pull the sun to rise a moment earlier. Yet humans with their impatient minds always try to control the flow of time. Like someone sitting under a tree plucking each dry leaf and asking, "Why hasn't spring come yet?" They forget that nothing needs to be controlled. Seasons arrive when the air is cold enough. Flowers bloom when the light is warm enough, and the bell rings only when the silence is deep enough. This story begins at dawn in an ancient monastery. The air was still, and dew clung to the old roof tiles. There a young novice was struggling with his first task, ringing the morning bell. But it was precisely his impatience that made the morning bell lose its rhythm. The sky was just beginning to brighten. Thin clouds drifted like silk over the mountain peaks, where the first sunlight gently touched the green bamboo leaves. A cool wind carried the scent of damp earth and bird song, as if the monastery itself was breathing in harmony with nature. Everything was calm and tender, as though the whole world was waiting for a single sound to awaken it. The bell. The young novice named Hosen had been in the monastery only a few months. His master had given him a task that seemed simple: to ring the bell every morning. Before leaving, the master only said gently, "You don't need to watch the clock. Just listen. When the sun touches the mountain top, the bell will know when to sing." But Hosen didn't understand. To him, being on time meant being absolutely precise. So every morning he woke while it was still dark, stood before the bell tower gripping the mallet tightly, his eyes fixed on the east. He watched the sky lighten, counting every heartbeat, afraid that even a moment's delay would disappoint his teacher. Inside him, a string was stretched tight, trembling with tension. On the first day out of anxiety, he struck the bell a few minutes early. The sound echoed through the thick darkness, filling the courtyard with a cold vibration. The master heard it, smiled softly, and said nothing. On the second day, Hosen tried to wait longer, but fear still filled his mind. Again the bell rang before dawn truly broke. On the third day, his eyes were heavy from lack of sleep. He stood beneath the tower, watching the sun rise behind the trees, counting each second, each breath. While he was busy watching time, the wind shifted. A light breeze moved through the courtyard, rustling the leaves, and then ting, ting, ting. The small wind chime hanging by the porch began to sing. Its sound was clear, pure, echoing across the monastery like a greeting from the universe to the morning. The master, sitting in meditation, opened his eyes gently and looked toward the porch without a word. But Hosen, standing beneath the bell tower, heard nothing. In his mind, there was only the ticking of time and the worry of being on time. When the sun had fully risen, he finally struck the bell, but the sound came out dry, short, and lifeless, like his own strained breath. Afterward, the master called Hosen to him. "Did you hear the wind this morning?" he asked. Hosen hesitated. "No, master. I was counting time." The master smiled. "The bell doesn't need you to control it. It rings on its own when your mind is calm." Hosen bowed his head, his heart stirred. The master pointed toward the garden where a single leaf was falling. "See that leaf? It falls at the right moment, neither early nor late. The entire universe knows when to move. Only humans in their haste to outrun the Dharma fall out of rhythm." From that day on, Hosen stopped watching the clock. Each morning, he sat quietly beside the bell tower, closing his eyes, breathing gently, listening to the wind, the birds, and the vast silence within. He allowed time to arrive on its own, as the sun always rises, as the leaf always falls. One morning, when the first light touched the surface of the bronze bell, Hosen lifted the mallet and struck a single gentle note. The sound rang long and soft, spreading through the monastery, touching every leaf and every ray of light. No one said it was on time or late, because in that moment, when the bell, the wind, the sun, and the breath became one, everything was perfectly on time. It was the moment of the present where time stops and the mind returns to peace. The story of the young novice Hosen is a metaphor for the restless heart within each of us. We all have our own bell to ring our work, our success, our love, our spiritual path. But fearing we'll be too late, we try to strike early. We follow the clock of the ego, forgetting that the Dharma is never late. In Zen, there is a teaching called timelessness, the state beyond early and late. Because when your mind is fully present, every moment is the right one. The Buddha said, "As long as you chase time, you are missing life." All anxiety, haste, and impatience come from the illusion that we can control timing. But time does not need humans to move. The sun rises whether we wake or sleep. The flower blooms whether we watch it or not. The modern mind always wants control to dictate results, adjust speed force outcomes, and reap rewards quickly. But in Zen, results only arise when causes and conditions are complete. They cannot be rushed. A fruit ripened too soon may taste sweet for a moment, but it weakens the root. A mind forced into peace only grows more restless. Modern psychology agrees. Outcome impatience raises cortisol, the stress hormone that causes pressure and anxiety, even when nothing is wrong. But in meditation, practitioners learn to return to the natural rhythm. When you release the need to control, your nervous system relaxes, your breathing deepens, and clarity arises naturally. Hosen discovered this truth. The bell didn't need him to strike early, only to be present at the right moment. Likewise, life doesn't need you to be ahead. It only needs you to truly be here. Most of us live in two places, the past and the future. We think of what we've lost or worry about what's to come. But rarely do we live in the present, where life is actually happening. The one who lives in the right moment is the one who knows how to wait for the right conditions. The one who lives out of time is the one who keeps pushing the natural flow. And the most troubled one is the person who tries to control even the wind. When we rush, the mind tightens. When the mind tightens, the breath shortens. When the breath shortens, wisdom fades. Then we react instead of understanding. We force instead of flowing. The Buddha said, "Everything arrives on time, even when it seems late." If a door hasn't opened, perhaps your heart isn't yet wide enough to walk through. If someone hasn't appeared, perhaps you're not yet ready to meet them. If a wish hasn't come true, perhaps the Dharma is teaching you something deeper than results. Like Hosen's bell, everything will sound when the heart is quiet enough. No forcing, no demanding, no ordering the universe. A Harvard University study found that practicing mindful presence, simply being fully in the present moment, reduces symptoms of chronic stress by 47%. When you are truly present, the brain's fear prediction system slows down, and the body returns to its natural calm. So instead of asking, "When will I be at peace?" ask, "Right now, am I truly hearing the wind?" Because only when you hear the wind can the bell within you begin to ring. Tonight, as you close your eyes, don't wait for sleep to come. Just listen to your breath. If thoughts appear, don't chase them away. If emotions rise, don't resist them. Let them come like wind passing through a window. You don't need to command your mind to be still. The mind becomes still when you stop forcing it to be still. When you stop counting time, sleep will arrive on its own. When you stop planning every outcome, peace will find its way to you, because life has never been late for anyone. It's only humans too hurried who fail to notice the beauty of the present moment. Let tonight be a bell unstruck. Let yourself be as quiet as the sky before dawn, when everything still sleeps. But the Dharma is already in motion. Breathe in deeply, knowing you are breathing in. Breathe out slowly, knowing you are breathing out. Do not chase, do not control. Simply be like the young novice listening to the wind. And in the same way, when you learn to wait for the right moment, you begin to understand another law of life. Everything unfolds in its own rhythm. Like a seed in the soil, if you dig it up every day to check whether it has sprouted, it will die. But if you trust the earth, the rain and the conditions, the sprout will rise when the light is ready. The next story tells of a farmer who wanted his seeds to sprout faster, so he dug them up every day to check. And Master Eshin said to him, "The Dharma is the same. Letting go of control is trust in cause and condition. There we will learn how to let the seed be a seed, let the Dharma grow on its own, and let life unfold in perfect harmony." Have you ever tried so hard to the point of exhaustion just to make something happen faster? You wanted the tree to grow love, to ripen the wound, to heal karma, to dissolve right now. But the more impatient you became, the more everything seemed to go against you. There is a paradox in life. The more we try to control, the further the result drifts away. Yet when we gently let go, the right thing happens on its own. The Buddha taught, causes and conditions do not need interference. You only need to plant the seed and trust the soil. But humans afraid of loss, delay, or insufficiency keep digging into everything, even the seeds that have not yet sprouted. Imagine a man who plants flowers, but digs up the soil every day to check whether his seeds have grown. He believes this carefulness is love, but his anxious hands kill the sprouts that were quietly growing beneath. This is the story of a sincere but anxious farmer. Through a meeting with Master Eshin, he came to understand a simple truth. Letting go is not neglect, it is trusting that life knows its own path. The morning had just broken. Mist still covered the field, glimmering under the first sunlight. The newly plowed soil smelled of last night's rain. By the field's edge, a farmer sat silently watching the rows of seeds he had just sown. After years of drought, this was the first season he placed all his hopes in. On the first day, he planted the seeds, watered them carefully, and waited. The day passed. The soil remained still. No sign of life. He began to worry. What if the seeds have died? The next morning, his waiting became unbearable. He bent down and gently dug through the soil to check. The seeds were still there. He covered them again, but his heart was uneasy. On the third day, he dug deeper, afraid he had buried them too tightly. Day after day, he continued digging, covering, and digging again. By the end of the week, no seed survived. Every sprout that tried to rise was killed by his impatient hands. One cloudy afternoon, he climbed the hill to a small monastery where Master Eshin lived, a teacher villagers often came to for guidance. The farmer knelt and recounted everything, his voice full of remorse. "Master, I don't understand. I only wanted to help the seeds grow faster, but they all died." Eshin looked at him quietly, then asked, "Do you believe the seeds will sprout if you do nothing?" The farmer hesitated. "I'm afraid. If I don't act, they'll be lost." The master smiled gently. "Who do you think makes the seeds grow?" The farmer whispered. "Me, the water, and the soil." "No," Eshin said softly. "You are only the sower. Sprouting belongs to the Dharma." He picked up a handful of soil, blew through his fingers, and said, "See this. The Dharma moves like breath, natural, effortless. It knows when to bring sun, when to bring rain. When you try to control it, you make the wind choke." The farmer sat in silence. Something within him softened like a stone warmed by sunlight. Eshin continued, "The seed doesn't need your control. It only needs your trust. When you learn to step aside, the earth will do the rest." From that day, the farmer stopped digging. Every morning, he sat by the field, listening to birds, watching sunlight spread across the soil, letting his breath move with the wind. Day by day, on the once silent ground, tiny green sprouts began to rise. And when he saw them, he smiled. He understood life never needed to be forced. It only needed trust. The Dharma always knows how to bring the seed to light. This story is a metaphor for a deep Buddhist truth. Everything has its cause, condition, and time. We can sow the seed, but we cannot command it to sprout. When we act with a controlling mind, we interfere with the natural flow of conditions. And when we interfere, we lose trust. When trust in the Dharma is lost, life loses the space to unfold naturally. The Buddha said, "The one who acts without attachment, who works without expectation, that person understands non-action." Non-action does not mean passivity or giving up. It means acting from stillness, acting without letting the ego dictate the result. The farmer represents many of us in modern life. Always anxious, always afraid, always checking if everything is okay. Just like when we begin our practice, we want peace quickly, anger gone quickly, enlightenment soon. But the more we rush, the further peace slips away. It is like meditation. If you sit with the thought, "I must achieve stillness," you will never be still, because wanting is the first disturbance of the mind. Modern psychology calls this state over-control. When people over-control, the brain activates anxiety and survival responses. This reduces creativity, weakens natural healing, and keeps the nervous system tense. But when we let go and trust, the body releases oxytocin, the hormone of calm and connection. Like seeds, each of us has our own season of growth. Nothing needs to be rushed. No one arrives late. The Dharma is never off schedule. It is only humans desperate to see flowers who accidentally kill the seeds. In life, there are things you can plant but cannot order to bloom. You can care, but not control. You can love, but not force love in return. You can try, but not command success to come before its time. That is why the Buddha said, "Sow with mindfulness, not ambition." Letting go of control is not indifference. It is knowing that after doing your best, you can step back and let the Dharma take over, just as the farmer finally learned to trust the earth. If you are in a stage where no results seem to appear, remember the seed needs darkness to prepare for light. Some things must stay silent for a long time before they can bloom, and sometimes that silence is the greatest blessing of the Dharma. A study from Cambridge University found that people who can wait with trust have 40% higher life satisfaction than those who constantly try to control. They do not wait with anxiety, they wait in peace, trusting that everything will come when conditions are right. When you trust the process, your mind naturally calms. And when the mind is calm, your energy becomes light, clear, and flexible, like soft soil where every seed can grow. So instead of asking, "When will I see results?" ask, "Am I trusting the process of life?" Because when you truly trust, you no longer need results to prove your faith. Letting go of control is also a practice in every breath. When you lie down to sleep, do not try to sleep. The more you try, the more awake you become, just as the farmers digging killed the seeds. Instead, simply listen to your breathing. Let each inhale and exhale flow like gentle waves, without control, without counting. When the mind stops commanding, the body relaxes. And when the body relaxes, sleep arrives naturally. You don't need to create peace. Peace is already here, waiting for you to stop interfering. Like a lake that needs no lesson in stillness, only for the wind to stop blowing. Tonight, let go layer by layer of your worries. Not everything needs to be solved right now. Not everyone needs to understand you today. Not every seed must sprout today. Just trust in the silence. The Dharma is still working. The seed is breathing, the earth is nurturing, and life is quietly carrying you where you need to be. And when you understand this, you'll see, not only does the seed need space to live, but even the flame needs space to burn. If you cup your hands too tightly to protect it from the wind, the flame will die not because of the wind, but from lack of air. The next story tells of a student who did the same and what Master Hanjo taught him. Over-control is how you suffocate your own light. There we will learn how to let the light breathe and let the heart be free. Have you ever tried to hold on to something precious so tightly that you ended up losing it with your own hands? You were afraid of losing the one you love, so you held them too tightly. You were afraid of failure, so you tried to control every step of your life. You were afraid of losing peace, so you forced yourself into a rigid frame. But the more you hold on, the more everything slips away. It's like holding a handful of sand. The tighter you squeeze, the more it falls through your fingers. The more you try to protect, the more you suffocate what you love. The Buddha taught, those who fear losing often forget that nothing truly belongs to them. So instead of learning how to hold on, we must learn to let everything simply be as it is, like flowers blooming in the wind or the moon shining on water, neither controlled nor protected, just naturally free. This is the story of a young student full of good intentions, but trapped in the same old mistake over control. Only when the lamp in his hands went out did he realize light doesn't need to be shielded, it needs to breathe. Evening descended upon the monastery. The wind drifted in from the bamboo forest, carrying the scent of damp earth. A crescent moon hung in the sky, thin as a half-hidden smile. Small lanterns lined the stone path to the meditation hall, their trembling golden light dancing with the breeze. It was part of the nightly ritual. One student was assigned to keep the flame alive during chanting a symbol of keeping mindfulness from fading in the heart. That night, the wind suddenly grew strong. The flames flickered, bending and flaring, fighting against the darkness. Some went out, some wavered weakly. others burned low and uneven. The young student, entrusted with a precious lamp from his master, quickly cupped his hands tightly around the flame. He bent low, pressing his palms together, trying to block every breath of wind. The flame cast a trembling light on his face, revealing the tension and fear in his eyes. The wind grew stronger, whipping his robe as he crouched closer to the ground, shielding the lamp with all his might. Only one thought filled his mind: I must protect this light at all costs. Then, with a sudden gust, whoosh, the flame went out. He froze. In the darkness, his hands remained cupped, unable to believe what had just happened. The lamp his master entrusted to him, the light he had tried so hard to protect, had gone out right there in his hands. He sat motionless for a long time. The wind continued to blow, the scent of oil lingered in the air, and the weight of failure pressed on his heart. The next morning, Master Hanjo walked by and saw the student still sitting there, weary, heavy-eyed. The master asked, "Why haven't you relit the lamp?" The student bowed his head. "I'm afraid it will go out again. Last night I covered it completely with my hands, but the wind still blew it out. I don't understand why." Hanjo smiled and sat beside him. He took another lamp from his sleeve and gently lit it. The flame flickered warm and alive. "Look closely," the master said. A soft breeze passed. The flame swayed, slightly tilted, then steadied itself again. The master did not cover it, nor did he try to protect it. "Do you see?" Hanjo said quietly. "The wind doesn't kill the flame. The flame needs the wind to breathe, just as you need challenges to know yourself. When you cover it too tightly, you cut off its air. Over-control is how you suffocate your own light." The student sat silently, gazing at the lamp in his hands. He remembered the night before, his clenched palms, shallow breath, the fear that strangled the flame. And now, as the wind still blew, the lamp in his master's hands burned steadily, calm, unwavering. He smiled faintly. In that moment, the wind seemed to soften, not because it stopped blowing, but because peace had returned to his heart. He understood. Light does not need protection born of fear, but trust in the natural flow of the wind. And in that wind, the lamp, like the human heart, truly learns how to shine. The lamp in this story symbolizes the light of awareness, something that exists in everyone. The wind represents life, its changes, challenges, and the ever-shifting nature of impermanence. People often mistake peace for the absence of wind. They think peace means keeping everything still and unmoving. But in Zen, stillness is not the same as immobility. Stillness is the calm center that remains unmoved within movement. The Buddha taught, "It is not the wind that shakes you, but your mind that moves before the wind." When we worry too much, we try to shield ourselves from every direction, thinking that's how to protect peace. But true peace doesn't come from avoiding the wind. It comes from learning to breathe with it. Over-control is the expression of a fearful mind. It makes us shrink close off and suffocate the very life energy that wants to expand. Like the student who forgot that the flame exists only through the harmony of oil, fire, and air. When the air is cut off, the flame dies. In modern psychology, this is called overprotection. When we try too hard to protect what we love, we end up destroying it. Parents who shelter their children too much keep them from growing up. Lovers who hold each other too tightly make the relationship suffocate. Practitioners who demand instant peace only find more restlessness. The human heart is like a flame. It needs challenge, movement, and space to grow. No one can find true light by shutting every door. When you over-control, you are saying to life, "I don't trust you." And when trust is lost, you begin to cut off your own breath. The Buddha taught the middle way, not falling into the extremes of careless detachment or fearful attachment. The middle way means acting just enough and letting the rest unfold with causes and conditions. Like caring for a flower, you can water it, nourish the soil and give it sunlight, but you cannot make it bloom before its time. If you fear it wilting and overwater it, you'll kill the roots. If you ignore it, it dries up. Only balance just enough sustains life. In daily life, many people are exhausted, not because of heavy work, but because they carry the pressure that everything must go their way. They strive to make things perfect, to keep everyone around them calm, to keep their own mind still. But in that effort, they forget the most important truth. Light doesn't need to be protected, it only needs not to be covered. A study from Stanford University found that those who trust the process of life have stronger immune systems, sleep more deeply, and experience less stress than those who constantly seek control. When you let go, the brain quiets the fear center, and the energies of creativity and healing begin to flow. This aligns perfectly with the Buddha's teaching. When the mind no longer grasps wisdom, shines by itself. Like the flame, it shines naturally when allowed to breathe. So, if you are weary from trying to hold on to too many things, ask yourself, am I protecting the light, or am I putting it out? Tonight, as you lie down, try something simple. Instead of trying to fall asleep quickly, just close your eyes and listen to the sound of the wind outside or the rhythm of your own breath. If thoughts arise, don't chase them away. If emotions surface, don't suppress them. Let them breathe like a flame that needs air. You don't need to control your mind to find peace. Peace comes when you stop trying to reach it. The same is true for sleep. When you stop commanding your body to sleep, now sleep comes naturally like wind finding flame. Practice letting go little by little. Let go of the need to control results. Let go of the need to be understood. Let go of the fear of losing what you love. And you will see when your hands no longer clutch the lamp, the light within you shines again on its own. It never needed to be held, only allowed to live. And when you learn to let the light breathe, you will also see something more. Not only the lamp, but even the leaf floating in the stream has its own wisdom. The leaf does not resist the current nor choose its path, yet it still reaches the ocean. So too with life, when we stop resisting, we begin to flow with the Dharma. The next story tells of a Zen master who watched a leaf drift down a stream and said, "The leaf does not choose its direction, yet it still reaches the sea." There, we will explore the power of flowing with life, a power far greater than any effort to control. Have you ever wondered why, even when you've done your very best, life still doesn't go the way you planned? You plan, organize, and design your future. Yet life keeps flowing like a river, moving where it wants to go. The more you try to control, the more exhausted you become. The harder you swim against the current, the more strength you lose. The more you force happiness, the further it drifts away. The Buddha taught flow with the Dharma, not with your own desires. Because when we go with the flow, we are no longer trapped in the whirlpool of resistance. To live in harmony with causes and conditions is not to give up. It is to trust that life itself has wisdom, and it knows how to lead us where we need to go without our directions. One autumn morning in the garden behind the monastery, golden leaves covered the path. A small stream ran through it, reflecting the faint light of the moon that still lingered from the night before. And in that quiet moment, Zen Master Minato saw a lesson on flowing with life through a single leaf, gentle, simple, and deeper than any scripture. The first light of dawn touched the ancient tiles of the temple roof, glistening with thin dew. The garden seemed to breathe in silence. A cool breeze moved through the old pine trees, carrying the scent of damp earth and fallen leaves, blending with the sound of the stream behind the monastery. Master Minato sat still by the water. The stream was so clear that every pebble could be seen at the bottom. A maple leaf fell onto the surface, spun softly, as if dancing, and drifted downstream. At first, it got caught on a small rock. Then, with one light gust, it was freed, floating again, unhurried, without resistance, following the water's direction. A young disciple, sweeping leaves nearby, stopped and watched for a long time. Then he asked, "Master, I don't understand. The leaf has no awareness. How can it still find its way to the sea?" Minato smiled gently, eyes still on the flowing water. "Precisely because it has no awareness, it doesn't resist the flow." The student frowned, still puzzled. But what if it drifts the wrong way? The master turned to him, eyes kind yet deep. "What is wrong?" "The water never errs. Only humans are afraid of getting lost." The student looked down at the stream, reflecting the early sunlight. The master picked up another leaf, placed it on the surface. The leaf turned, slowly touched a few stones, then was lifted by the current again. Sometimes it swirled in an eddy, sometimes the wind helped it glide farther. "Do you see?" the master said softly, like a breath. "It doesn't resist, and it doesn't try to go anywhere. Yet in the end, it will reach the sea." "Why?" the student whispered. "Because the water knows the way." The young monk was silent for a long time. Sunlight shimmered on the surface, as if every ray was also drifting with the leaf. One by one, more leaves fell from the maple trees above, spinning and floating downstream, all heading toward nowhere, and yet to their true destination. After a while, the master continued, his voice calm and warm. "People suffer not because life carries them, but because they refuse to move with it. They swim against a current, searching for the shore, not realizing that the shore itself is moving." Then he picked up one last leaf, dropped it into the stream. It turned, caught the light, and floated away like a tiny lantern. "Let your heart be as light as this leaf," the master said. "When you stop choosing directions, you will see the sea is never far." The disciple bowed his head. In the sound of flowing water, he felt something opening inside, a peace not born of understanding, but of surrendering to the current of life. Later, the master's words were carved on a wooden plaque at the monastery gate, simple yet profound. "The leaf does not choose its direction, yet it still reaches the sea." Master Minato's story beautifully illustrates the spirit of non-action, wu-wei, in Buddhism and Zen. Non-action does not mean doing nothing. It means acting without forcing, giving your full heart without grasping for results. The leaf on the water represents the mind that flows with the Dharma. When the mind no longer tries to control the direction, it becomes light-free and naturally wise. The Buddha said, "Those who flow with the Dharma do not need to seek the sea will welcome them." To go against the current is to swim within ego, within wanting, fearing, grasping, winning, and losing. To flow with it is to live mindfully, to see things as they are without resistance, without choosing. People often mistake flowing for giving up, but giving up is born of hopelessness, a loss of faith. Flowing is born of wisdom, understanding the law of cause and effect, and trusting that every change has its reason. Like the river that winds through the mountains, even when it bends or slows, it still finds its way to the sea. Every challenge in our lives, every obstacle or detour, is quietly carrying us closer to awakening. Modern psychology calls this state the flow state. When a person releases control completely and mind and action become one, they reach their highest level of performance and deepest peace. Science calls it being in the zone. Zen calls it egoless presence. When we flow, we no longer fight life, we move as one with it. Just like the leaf, not choosing, not thinking, not fearing, simply drifting. In life, we often try to define the right direction. We think we must do this to be happy, or achieve that to find peace. But the more we cling to the right way, the more we fear when the wind changes. The Buddha taught, "There is no wrong path, only a mind that goes the wrong way." The mind goes wrong when it resists what is. It goes right when it accepts what is happening. Sometimes you may think you're on the wrong road, but that very path is the only one leading you home. Just like the stream winding through the mountains, it may seem to stray, but its curves keep it from crashing into cliffs, allowing it to reach the sea. Therapeutic psychology has found that when people stop controlling and begin to trust the process, stress decreases, heart rate stabilizes, and the immune system recovers faster. The moment we release the need for things to go our way, the body naturally returns to balance. So flowing with life is not weakness, it is deep wisdom. The wise do not try to command the water, they learn to swim with it. Remember, when you force others to live by your expectations, you resist the wind. When you try to make time arrive sooner, you swim against the current. When you fear change, you cling to the shore while the ocean calls. Flowing with life is opening your heart to impermanence. Not to lose everything, but to see that nothing was ever truly lost. Tonight, as you lie down, let your mind be like a leaf on the water. Don't try to fall asleep quickly. Don't try to stop thinking. The more you try, the more restless your mind becomes. Just listen to your breath. Let every thought drift by like clouds in the sky. Gently remind yourself, I don't need to control. I only need to breathe. If your mind is tangled with worries, imagine them as leaves drifting away downstream. You don't need to push them, just watch, knowing everything is already moving. As your breath softens, you'll begin to feel what monks call the flow of the Dharma moving through you. No forcing, no striving. Everything aligns on its own, as rivers find the ocean, as the wind finds the sky. That is flowing with life in every breath, in every night's rest, in every step you take. When you learn to let your heart float like the leaf, you'll discover something even more profound. The water doesn't just carry you, it holds you up. Only when you drop the weight do you feel that gentle support. One day at the Rokuan monastery, a disciple tried to prove his strength by carrying a heavy rock across the river. The master only smiled and said, "Put it down, and you will see the water also lifts you." And that will lead us to the next lesson. When the burden falls, the Dharma itself begins to carry you. There are burdens we carry all our lives without realizing. We could have put them down long ago. We call them duty, love, honor, or simply what must be done. Yet sometimes the very things we believe we carry for righteousness are what slowly pull our hearts into the depths. People often say, "The stronger you are, the more you must endure." But in the Buddha's teaching, true strength does not lie in tightening your grip. It lies in knowing when to let go. Sometimes the one who can lay down a burden is the strongest of all. After the lesson of the drifting leaf, which taught us to move with the current of the Dharma without resistance, today's story at Rokuan Monastery reveals a deeper truth. When the burden falls, it is the Dharma itself that holds us up. Dawn was just breaking. Mist still veiled the mountains stretching over the old tiled roofs of the monastery. The morning bell had just faded, and incense smoke drifted softly through the air. At the foot of the mountain, a small river wound gently by, so clear that every pebble on its bed could be seen. A young disciple was assigned to cross to the other side to collect dry firewood. When he reached the riverbank, the dim morning light glimmered on a large stone before him. He stopped, and a thought arose. "I'll carry this stone across the river. If I can do it, the master will praise my diligence." With that, he bent down and lifted the heavy rock. It was weighty beyond measure. His shoulders trembled, sweat poured down though the mist was still cold. He waded into the river. The water reached his knees, and the current tugged at his legs, making each step unsteady. But he clenched his teeth, a single thought driving him forward. "I must prove myself. I must do it." Midway through, his foot slipped on a smaller stone. The rock on his shoulder tilted, nearly falling. In that moment of panic, he held it tighter, pouring every ounce of strength into not letting go. But the tighter he held, the heavier he became. The current grew stronger, and he began to sink. On the bank, the Zen master had been silently watching. When he saw the disciple floundering, he called out in a calm, steady voice that carried through the rushing water, "Put it down, and you'll see that the water is already holding you." The boy heard, but didn't quite understand. Yet in his exhaustion, he released the stone. A deep thud echoed as the rock sank to the bottom, and suddenly his body felt light. Cool water flowed around his arms and legs, carrying him gently toward the opposite shore. When he stood up, breathless and trembling, he looked back and saw the stone resting quietly beneath the surface. It hadn't vanished, it simply no longer needed to be carried. That evening, when he returned to the monastery, the master asked, "Are you tired, my child?" The boy bowed his head. "Yes, master." The old monk smiled. "You are tired not because the river was deep, but because you insisted on carrying what did not need to be carried." The boy stayed silent for a long time. Those words echoed in his heart like a bell in the valley. The master continued, his tone gentle yet firm. So it is in life. Many of the stones we carry thinking they are duty are only attachments. When you lay them down, the Dharma will lift you, just as the river lifted you across. A breeze swept down from the mountain, carrying the scent of bamboo and the murmur of water. The young disciple gazed at the river, where the stone still rested quietly below. A deep sense of ease spread through his chest, as if all unnecessary weight had just been released. And in that moment, he understood sometimes letting go is not losing, it is rising. In Buddhism, this story points to the art of releasing the mind's burdens, a core aspect of liberation. The stone here is not a physical object, but a symbol of the attachments we hold. The stone of the past memories, wounds, regrets. The stone of pride, the fear of seeming weak. The stone of expectation, the urge to prove our worth. All these stones weigh the mind down. And the paradox is this: we don't sink because of the river of life, we sink because of what we cling to in defiance of it. In Zen, there is a concept called non-abiding mind, a mind that clings to nothing. Such a person still works, still lives among others, but nothing owns their peace. They have laid down the stone on their shoulder, and so the water carries them effortlessly. The Buddha once said, "The one who knows how to let go is the one who can truly hold everything. Only with empty hands can we receive what is new." Those who cling to old burdens leave no room for light to enter. From the view of modern psychology, letting go of emotional burdens is a form of releasing mental energy. When the brain constantly holds on to pain, regret, or anger, it overactivates the amygdala, the center of fear and anxiety. Learning to put it down quiets these areas, allowing serotonin, the hormone of peace, to flow again. Thus, letting go is not only a spiritual act, but a biological one, a form of healing. When you stop resisting and simply breathe the Dharma, or in scientific terms, the natural energy of balance, will gently lift you back to the surface. In life, many people carry invisible stones. Some bear old grudges, some take on too much responsibility. Others hold on to pain thinking, "If I let go, I'll become heartless." But the Buddha taught letting go is not forgetting. It is seeing clearly and no longer letting the past bind you. Think of it this way: when you cling to someone who wants to leave, you carry the stone of fear. When you try to please everyone, you carry the stone of comparison. When you live for others' approval, you carry the stone of ego. The longer you carry them, the less you know who you really are. But when you put them down, you see the truth. The river is still there. Life still supports you, and it never abandons you. The Buddha once told this parable. A man was struck by a poisoned arrow. Instead of pulling it out, he demanded to know who shot it, what kind of wood it was made from, and which direction the wind had blown. And he died from the poison before he ever found his answers. The stone we carry is like that arrow. We only need to remove it, not analyze it endlessly. The more we try to explain, the deeper we sink into the mind. Wisdom arises the moment we release. Remember, when the burden falls, the Dharma itself will lift you. Just as the river waits to cradle the leaf, it only needs the leaf to let go. At the end of each day, as you lie down, ask yourself, what stone am I carrying tonight? Maybe it's worry about tomorrow, disappointment in yourself, or an unfinished story. Don't force it away or try to fix it. Just breathe, notice it, and gently say to your heart, I have set it down. Imagine each exhale as a stone falling off your shoulders. Each inhale as the river's current, lifting you softly upward. Your body will grow lighter, your thoughts will dissolve, and you'll drift into sleep as if held by the water itself. When you practice this each night, you are training the mind to release, so that when morning comes, everything feels as fresh as a river after the rain. Once you've learned to lay down your burden, you'll see that life already moves with its own rhythm. You don't need to chase it. You don't need to control it. Like the river, it keeps flowing with or without a map. And that leads to the next story, where Master Cairo taught, the stream needs no map. A traveler once asked him how to find the right path to the monastery, fearing he might go astray. The master pointed to the flowing water and said, the stream does not need a map, and still it reaches the sea. That lesson takes us further. Let go of the plan. Trust the natural flow of life. Because only when the stone is no longer on your shoulder can you finally hear the whisper of the stream guiding you home. Have you ever felt that you're doing everything right, yet still feel lost? You've read the books, followed the advice, planned every detail of your future, and still the road feels winding, your faith slowly fading. People often believe that only with a map can they reach where they want to go. But in Buddhist teaching, there is a deep paradox. The more one tries to walk the right path, the farther one moves from the truth. Because the way is not about direction, it is about awareness in the one who walks. And when the mind rests in the present, every path leads home. The next story takes us to Master Cairo's monastery, where a traveler learns that life doesn't need to be calculated. It only asks us to trust and walk. Dawn was breaking. White mist covered the slopes of the mountain, making the path to the monastery seem to dissolve into clouds. Between the dew-soaked bamboo groves, thin smoke rose from distant houses in the valley. As fragile as the breath of the earth, a young pilgrim stopped at a fork in the path, holding a crumpled map in his hand. He had been walking for days, yet still hadn't arrived. Every time he thought he was on the right path, he somehow took a wrong turn, got lost in the forest, and had to retrace his steps. His breath mingled with the mist, carrying fatigue and uncertainty. He met a woodcutter chopping firewood by the road and asked quickly, "Please, can you tell me the way to Cairo Monastery?" The woodcutter didn't answer right away. He simply smiled and said slowly, "Just follow the sound of water." The pilgrim listened and heard the faint murmur of a stream far away, but doubt lingered in his heart. "If the road twists and turns, will I still reach the right place?" he asked. The woodcutter picked up a leaf and dropped it into the stream nearby. The leaf spun gently, then drifted away with the current. "It has no map," the man said, "yet it still reaches the sea." The pilgrim stood silent, not fully understanding. He continued walking, glancing at his map while listening for the water's sound. Sometimes the stream's murmur disappeared behind the forest, and panic rose. He would change direction, thinking he was lost. But the more he walked, the farther the path led him away. By evening, light rain began to fall. The mountain trail grew slippery. Mud clung heavily to his sandals. He stopped beside a river bend, breathless with exhaustion. In the middle of the flowing water sat a monk, meditating on a rock. Rain drenched his brown robe, yet his face was serene, as though every gust of wind and drop of rain were part of his breath. The pilgrim called out, his voice lost in the rain. "Master, please show me the right way to the monastery. I've walked for days and still haven't found it." The monk opened his eyes, looked at the water swirling around his feet, and said softly, "You are already here." The pilgrim froze. "That can't be. I haven't seen the monastery gate." The master smiled, his voice gentle, yet echoing through the rain. "If your mind has not seen it, then even after 10 more years of walking, the monastery will still be outside of you." The young man bowed his head, confusion stirring within. The monk pointed at the clear stream. "See this water? It has no map, no route. Yet it never loses its way because it never doubts its direction." The pilgrim asked quietly, "But what if it meets rocks or branches? Then it flows around them. It bends but never loses its course. It is soft, so it does not fear collision. It flows, so it never gets stuck." The master picked up a thin bamboo twig and gently stirred the water. Ripples spread out, merged, and faded. "People suffer not because they lack a path," he said, "but because they keep trying to draw one for the water when water only needs to flow." The pilgrim stood still for a long time. Rain fell softly, merging with the stream's song. He looked down at the map in his hand. The ink had blurred. The paper was wet and limp. He let it go. The sheet drifted away, carried by rain and current. The master nodded gently, his gaze kind as morning mist. "When you stop searching for direction, that's when you're truly on the path." In that moment, the rain seemed quiet, leaving only the soft murmur of the stream that knew its way, just as the human heart does if it listens in stillness. Master Cairo's story is a vivid picture of a mind free from the need to control, the essence of Zen and the teaching of non-self. People believe that control brings safety, but in truth, it is control that keeps us restless. When the mind keeps drawing maps, it falls into the illusion that happiness lies at the destination, not in the step itself. The Buddha said, "He who sees the path needs no way. He who sees the Dharma needs no map." The stream never worries about being lost, for it trusts in nature. It may meet rocks, it may be stopped, yet it bends, weaves through, and eventually reaches the sea. That is the image of a mind in harmony with Dharma, neither forcing nor resisting what arises. In Zen, this is called the unobstructed nature of the mind, the state where there is no division between right and wrong, gain and loss, coming and going. At that point, we no longer live by plans, but directly through each breath, each moment. Even modern psychology echoes this wisdom with the idea of trusting the process. When we stop forcing outcomes, the brain reduces stress hormones like cortisol and increases serotonin, the natural chemical of peace, clarity, and creativity. The pilgrim in the story represents each of us seekers trying to find the monastery through maps instead of through lived experience. He believed enlightenment lay somewhere far away, while it was present in every step and every breath he took. In life, everyone wants to walk the right path, the right career, the right person, the right timing, the right choice. Yet few realize that the harder we try to be right, the more we fear being wrong, and the more we lose our freedom. The Buddha taught, "The way to truth has no map, for each must walk it alone." Each of us is a stream no one can flow for another. Maps are temporary. The current is real. If you ever feel weary because life isn't going as planned, pause for a moment. Don't try to plan your mind, simply observe what it is seeking. Like water. Once it stops struggling, it finds its own direction. In therapy, this is known as the natural regulation of the nervous system. When we accept the present instead of resisting it, the parasympathetic system activates, allowing the body to relax and restore energy. In other words, when you let go of the map, body and mind begin to heal. So trusting the process is not aimless. It is the intelligence of faith. Faith that even when the path curves, it still carries meaning. Faith that even if you haven't reached the goal, you're still walking rightly, as long as you walk with awareness. Consider this: even the smallest seed buried in darkness doesn't know which way to grow. Yet when light arrives, it rises on its own. No map teaches it this, only an innate trust in life itself. And when we live mindfully, we too rise quietly in trust. When night falls, try setting down the map you carry in your mind. Don't think about what you must do or achieve tomorrow. Just breathe. Inhale. Feel your body lifted like a leaf carried by the stream. Exhale, feel your mind dissolving into stillness like rain merging with water. If questions still linger within you, let them drift like that soaked map in the story. No need to find answers now. Sometimes not knowing is the doorway to peace. As your breath softens, you'll sense what the Buddha meant by Dharma moves by itself. The body knows how to heal. The mind knows how to calm, just as the stream knows how to find the sea. No force, no struggle, only allowing things to be what they are. Let tonight's sleep become your own stream. No map, no destination, only the journey back to inner stillness. When we learn to trust the process, life becomes as light as the wind. For the wind never knows where it's going, yet it always arrives where it needs to be. The next story will deepen this lesson. A child tries to control a kite, pulling the string tighter until it tangles. Only when he loosens his grip does the wind lift it high. Just as the stream needs no map, the kite needs no rigid hand. This lesson reveals a greater truth. Real strength lies in softness, not in control. Have you ever felt that the more you try to control things, the more they slip away? You want to hold on to a relationship, yet the tighter you cling, the farther the other person drifts. You want life to go in the right direction, But the harder you try to keep it in line, the more tangled it becomes. The more you try to make the wind obey, the more it changes course. In life, people often mistake strength for holding on tightly. But in Zen, true strength lies in knowing when to let go gently. Like trying to grasp water in your palm, the tighter you hold, the faster it slips away. Only when you open your hand can you keep what you were never forcing to stay. Buddhist teaching calls this the wisdom of softness, when the mind stops resisting and begins to listen to the natural flow of things. A child and a kite in the wind, in Master Shunkei's story, learned that the wind only lifts what knows how to release. Dawn was just breaking. The monastery was wrapped in a thin mist. The scent of ripe rice drifted up from the valley, blending with the chirping of birds in the old bamboo trees. A gentle breeze stirred the 5-colored prayer flags hanging from the temple eaves. On the hill behind the monastery, a young boy sat in the grass, eyes fixed on a paper dove kite swaying in the bright morning sky. The string in his hands was pulled tight. His body tensed with every movement of the kite. Each time the wind changed, the kite tilted sharply, trembled, and suddenly plunged downward. Panicking, the boy pulled the string hard, trying to keep it steady. But the more he pulled, the more the kite wobbled and the string tangled. He muttered, "Why won't it listen to me?" Just then, an old Zen master walked by the hill path. Seeing the scene, he stopped and watched quietly. Morning sunlight streamed through the bamboo leaves, soft on his gentle face. He spoke, his voice calm and warm. "It's because you're trying to be the wind instead of letting the wind do its work." The boy looked up, puzzled. "But if I don't pull, the kite will fall." The master smiled. "Try loosening your grip, not letting go completely, just a little." The boy obeyed. The string softened in his hands, relaxed enough to move with the rhythm of the wind. Strangely, the kite that had been trembling suddenly steadied itself, its shape filled with air rising higher and more gracefully. The wind lifted it upward. Sunlight shone through the thin paper, making it glow like a small flame in the sky. The boy shouted with joy, his eyes bright. "It's flying, but I didn't even do anything." The master replied, his smile light as the breeze. "Exactly because you didn't do anything." The boy looked at his hand, still holding the string, but no longer tight. From somewhere in the valley, the sound of temple bells echoed, mingling with the rolling wind. The master continued slowly. "True strength doesn't lie in pulling harder, but in trusting the wind. When you stop trying to control everything, finds its own way to fly. So, I just need to let go, master." "Not to let go completely," the master said. "To release gently. Letting go can be escape. Releasing gently is trust." The boy stayed silent, watching his kite soar higher, smiling softly. A stronger gust swept across the hill, and the kite rose freely, carried by the wind. The master nodded, eyes distant. When the hand loosens, the wind can lift. When the mind stops forcing, the Dharma can move. They say that as the boy grew up through all the opposing winds of life, he still carried that calm smile, because he had learned strength isn't always in holding tight. Sometimes the lightest release lets the wind lift you higher. The story seems simple, yet it hides a deep wisdom about living in harmony with the Dharma. In Zen, every form of resistance leads to imbalance. The harder the mind becomes, the easier it breaks. But when the mind is soft, it bends with any circumstance without losing itself. The kite symbolizes the mind. The wind symbolizes the Dharma, the natural flow of life, of causes and conditions. The string is the ego, the part that wants control, that wants life to follow its own design. When we pull the string too tightly, the kite loses balance. When we let it go completely, it falls. Only when we hold it just enough, letting go without dropping, acting without clinging, do we find the middle way of Buddhism. The Buddha taught, as with a lute, when the string is too loose, it won't sound. When too tight, it will snap. Likewise, life doesn't require us to strain, only to stay aware and balanced. In modern psychology, this is known as the flow state, the natural rhythm of energy when one stops forcing and merges with the process of doing. In that state, both creativity and effectiveness reach their peak. This is the Buddhist spirit of wu-wei, doing without doing, action free from attachment. Why does the kite fly? Not because it has wings, but because the wind carries it. And why does a person find peace? Not because they make life peaceful, but because their mind stops fighting the wind of life. In the modern world, we often forget this simple truth. We try to control everything: work, relationships, the future, even our own emotions. We want everything to go our way, so when it doesn't, we suffer. But the Buddha taught, the more you try to control, the farther you move from freedom. When we take just half a step back, everything arranges itself according to its natural course. Like flying a kite, hold it just enough and it's steady. Pull too hard and the string breaks. In relationships too, when we hold too tightly, love becomes a cage. When we release gently, love becomes space for both to rise. Science agrees. Most psychological stress comes from the illusion of control. The brain's constant effort to predict and fix outcomes. When we learn to trust the process, stress hormones like cortisol decrease and heart rate and breath return to balance. Inner peace doesn't come because everything is perfect, but because we can accept imperfection. So don't try to make the wind go your way. Learn instead to rest your hand lightly on the string of life and let the wind lift the kite of your heart. In Zen, this is called letting go without falling, holding, without gripping. It isn't passivity, it's mindful action born of wisdom. When you stop forcing the Dharma, the flow of life itself carries you where you need to go. When night comes, observe yourself like someone holding a kite string. Are you pulling too tightly? Are you trying to quiet your mind through effort, through thinking, through control? In truth, the more you try to calm the mind, the more restless it becomes. Just as the harder you try to keep the kite still, the stronger the wind pushes against it. Loosen your hand. Exhale a little longer, letting the air flow through your body like a gentle wind. Feel your shoulders, neck, chest, and belly relax. Let your breath become the kite string, neither tight nor slack, simply moving with ease. If worries still linger in your heart, whisper softly, "The wind is carrying me. I don't need to hold on anymore." When you do that, you enter the stillness of meditation. Your breath evens out your thoughts, stops searching, and you feel lifted by something greater, what Master Shunkei called the wind's power within the heart. Sleep comes not because you force it, but because you've stopped trying. The night flows softly like a kite, resting in the calm sky. When we learn to release gently, we discover a deeper truth. Life doesn't have to be perfect to be beautiful. Like the kite, even with small tears, it can still fly in the wind. The next story tells of a sculptor trying to mend every crack in a Buddha statue with gold paint. But his master said, "Stop repairing. Let it crack. That's where the light enters." That story takes the lesson further. We don't need to control perfection. We only need to let truth shine through. Because only when we stop trying to make everything perfect, we realize we already are. Humans have always longed for perfection. We want everything to be flawless. Our lives, our work, our bodies, our relationships, and even ourselves. Yet the more we try to make everything better, the more uneasy we become. Because the perfection we chase isn't real. It's an illusion born from the ego's fear of being hurt. In Buddhist teaching, there is a profound paradox. It is through the cracks that the light enters. It means that only when we dare to face our imperfections does awakening begin. Like the moon appearing when the clouds clear, the heart truly opens only when it no longer fears being seen. From the lesson of the kite, that strength lies in softness, not in force. We now take a deeper step. Sometimes, imperfection itself is the doorway to wisdom. The story of the Zen craftsman Takuan and the cracked statue shows us this truth. It was a late autumn morning. The sky was so clear that every small bird seemed to paint strokes on the canvas of dawn. The first light slipped over the distant mountains, shining on the ancient temple nestled in the quiet valley. The faint scent of incense drifted through the air, blending with the long echo of the morning bell that seemed to awaken the earth. In a small room by the veranda, a young craftsman sat before a table of clay. Before him was a Buddha statue slowly taking shape. Each touch, each carving stroke was made with complete focus. His hands trembled slightly, not from fatigue, but from his deep desire for perfection. Every fold of the robe, every finger, every gentle curve of the Buddha's face was shaped with near obsessive care. He wanted to create a flawless image, the embodiment of absolute purity. That night, a heavy rainstorm hit the valley. Thunder echoed through the temple. The wind rattled the windows. He stayed awake all night, worried about the unfinished statue. At dawn, he stepped into the room and froze. A long crack ran across the statue's chest. The dried clay had split open like a wound in his own heart. Panicked, he grabbed gold paint and tried to cover the crack. But the thicker the paint, the more visible it became. He scraped, polished, and patched again and again until the statue lost its natural grace. Sweat and tears fell onto the ground. "Master, I ruined it," he whispered. The old Zen master entered his brown robe, swaying gently in the breeze. He looked at the statue for a long moment, then asked, "Why do you think it's ruined?" "Because it's no longer perfect." The young man said, "I worked so hard for days, and one crack destroyed everything." The master smiled, placed a hand on his shoulder, and lightly touched the crack. "Stop repairing it," he said. "Let it be." The young man looked up, stunned. "But if I leave it like this, it will look ugly." The master shook his head. No, it is precisely there that light will enter. He turned the statue toward the window. Sunlight passing through thin clouds fell across the crack and cast a brilliant golden line on the floor. The whole room brightened, shimmering as if 1,000 specks of light were dancing in the air. The master spoke softly, his voice deep like mountain wind. See without the crack, how would the light find its way? The young man bowed his head. A drop of water fell. He couldn't tell if it was rain or a tear. In that moment, he understood. True perfection is not the absence of cracks, but the peace that allows us to see the light through them. From that day on, every statue he made carried a small crack, not from carelessness, but as a reminder that the places we think are weakest are often where the light wants to enter. This story beautifully illustrates the Buddhist teachings of non-self and impermanence. Why do people fear cracks? Because we fear being seen as imperfect, weak, or wounded. But the Buddha taught nothing is permanent. Even a Buddha statue carved from stone can still crack. Only by accepting impermanence can we touch truth. The perfection people seek, no aging, no illness, no mistakes, no suffering, is just the ego's illusion of immortality. The Buddha's path doesn't go through avoiding flaws, but through seeing their true nature. There is a Japanese Zen philosophy called kintsugi, the art of mending broken pottery with gold, not to hide the cracks, but to honor them. In Zen, every crack is a witness of time, experience, and growth. The more cracks something has, the more soul it carries, just like the human heart. The more it has lived, the more radiant it becomes. In modern psychology, this aligns with the idea of self-compassion. Research shows that those who accept their flaws are not only happier, but grow faster because they don't waste energy hiding, but use it to heal. Zen teaches us truth is not afraid of being broken, because the light of Dharma can only shine through what is uncovered. A closed heart will never receive light, but a heart that dares to crack, that dares to hurt to be real, becomes the doorway for wisdom to enter. In life, each of us is a Zen craftsman of our own being. We don't sculpt Buddha statues from clay, but we shape our lives day by day. And like the craftsman, we sometimes find our statue of life full of cracks, failures, losses, mistakes, betrayals, or illness. Our first instinct is to patch them up. We rush to cover them with the gold paint of success pride or forced strength to hide our pain. But the more we cover, the farther we move from real light. The Buddha said, "One who knows suffering has begun to awaken." Because suffering is not the enemy, it is the teacher revealing where our attachments still lie. In psychology, when a person faces their emotions, instead of denying them, the brain releases oxytocin, the hormone of connection and healing. That is why those who have compassion for themselves recover faster from emotional wounds. The truth is, no one lives without cracks, but only the awakened know how to let light through them. The unawakened spend a lifetime trying to seal them shut. Look at the cracks in your life. A broken relationship, a failed plan, a pain you can't speak of. If you stay still long enough, you'll see right there a new energy is waiting to shine. The Dharma never disappears. It only waits for us to stop painting over it. Tonight before you sleep, look back on your day, not to judge but to smile. If you made mistakes, don't rush to blame yourself. See them as small cracks where light is trying to enter. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and imagine a tiny crack in your heart. From it, warm light radiates, not harsh or hurried, but softly filling your body. Let your breath move through that crack like a gentle breeze softening a closed heart. When you feel weak, don't try to be strong. When you feel sad, don't force yourself to be happy. Just breathe. Acceptance is the first step toward awakening, and as you fall asleep, let all your cracks rest. No fixing, no patching. Just silence, and let the light of life do the rest. Tomorrow you'll find your heart brighter, not because everything is perfect, but because you stopped fearing imperfection. When we understand that light enters through the cracks, we also understand something deeper. Nothing needs to be straightened because nature is already whole. The next story, The Thread in the Wind, by Master Kayan, tells of a monk weaving cloth who tried to keep every thread perfectly straight. The master said, "If you want the fabric to be soft, let the thread move with your breath." That lesson will lead us to realize this control is tension. Nature is peace. And like the cracked statue, when we stop trying to make life perfect, it weaves its own quiet beauty, soft, simple, and full of light. We often believe that if we can control everything, well, life will be peaceful. Yet the paradox is, the more we try to hold on, the more things slip away. Have you ever noticed that when you try to control someone, they drift farther? When you strive to make something perfect, it becomes full of small flaws. When you force your mind to stay still, that's when it becomes the most restless. That is the nature of life. The tighter you grasp, the more you lose. The more you release, the more peace you find. Like the breath, you can't control it with willpower. If you force yourself to breathe evenly, you suffocate. But when you let the breath flow naturally, the body and mind become light. And yet in daily life, we repeat the same mistake, trying to control the flow of Dharma. There was once a story from Kayan Monastery about a young monk learning the craft of weaving. The cloth he wove would be used to make robes for the monks in the temple, so he worked with great care, wanting every thread to be straight and perfect. But that very desire for perfection made him suffer for many days. One spring morning, dew still clung to the wild daisies outside the veranda. The temple bell echoed softly through the bamboo garden, fading into the clear sky. The stillness was so deep that the faint tapping of the loom could be heard from the small room behind the meditation hall. The young monk sat before the loom, focused, as if holding his own breath between the threads. Sunlight streamed through the window, laying a soft glow on the cloth he was weaving. He carefully controlled the petals, pulling each thread straight, adjusting every line, every knot. Whenever a thread wavered even slightly, he unraveled it and began again. Sometimes he sighed, the thread simply refused to obey, bending just a little, as if life itself were showing its quiet stubbornness. As the morning light slanted through the window, Master Kayan entered the room. He stood silently behind his student, watching the rhythmic movement of the loom. "What are you doing?" the master asked. "I'm trying to keep the thread perfectly straight, so the fabric will be even," the student replied. "Are you tired?" "Yes, master," he said, wiping the sweat from his brow. "But if I don't control it, the fabric will wrinkle." Master Kayan smiled, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. His voice was calm, flowing like a quiet stream. "If you want the fabric to be soft, let the thread move with your breath." The monk froze, confused. "But if I let go, the thread will tangle." "The thread tangles because your mind is tangled," the master said. "If your mind is soft, the thread will be soft. If your breath is gentle, the thread will move gently." Then the master went to the window and opened it. A spring breeze flowed in, carrying the scent of flowers and bird song. The curtain fluttered lightly. The threads on the loom quivered along with it. "See," the master said quietly. "The wind doesn't control anything yet. Everything moves with it." The monk sat still, listening to the wind gliding through the window. It no longer sounded like wind, but like the soft sigh of the universe. He loosened his hands, weaving now in rhythm with his breath. No tension, no resistance. And strangely, the fabric began to flow smoothly soft, even as if it were weaving itself. When he finished, he looked at the cloth before him. It wasn't perfect, but it was warm, alive, as though every thread carried a trace of human breath. Master Kayan smiled kindly. "You have just learned what many spend their whole lives trying to understand," he said. "Dharma doesn't arise from control, but from harmony. Life is the same. Don't try to weave it your way. Let it weave itself." Outside, the wind continued to move through the daisies, and the fabric on the loom trembled slightly, as if breathing with the earth. Master Kayan's words, "If you want the fabric to be soft, let the thread move with your breath," were not only a lesson in craft, but a philosophy of living. In Buddhism, every attempt to control comes from greed, anger, and ignorance. Greed for outcomes, anger when things don't go our way, ignorance of the truth that all things are impermanent. We try to straighten life, forgetting that the power of wind lies in its flexibility. Zen teaches, don't block the river, learn to move with it. When you live in a state of control, you fight against nature and against Dharma itself. Because Dharma flows through causes and conditions, not through personal will. Modern psychology says the same. When we try to control everything, the brain stays in stress mode, releasing cortisol, the hormone of anxiety. But when we release control, the body activates the parasympathetic system, the state of rest and healing. That's why wisdom and creativity appear only when we stop over-efforting. Control is born from fear, fear of failure, of loss, of uncertainty. But uncertainty is not a flaw, it is life itself. When you accept uncertainty, you enter the peace of meditation where everything unfolds just as it is. Like the weaver, when he forced the threads to stay straight, the fabric became stiff and lifeless. But when he allowed them to flow with his breath, softness appeared. That is also how the mind works. If you force it to be still, it shakes. But if you let it breathe naturally, calmness arises on its own. Like water, it always finds the lowest path. It doesn't resist, doesn't fight, and it never breaks. The Buddha said, "A soft mind is a wise mind. A rigid mind is a suffering mind because it tries to control what cannot be controlled. In modern life, we all live among invisible looms, packed schedules, relationships we try to manage, expectations we impose on ourselves. We weave our lives through control, wanting every thread to stay in line. But the more we try to master it, the more exhausted we feel. Because life is not a piece of fabric we can stretch. Flat it is the wind, and the wind will never stand still for us to measure. Letting go of control doesn't mean giving up, it means learning to trust. Trust in the process of dharma. Trust in the natural rhythm of cause and effect. A study from Harvard University found that people who practice a letting go mindset, mindfulness-based non-control, are 33% happier than those who try to control outcomes, because they live fully in the present instead of tiring themselves in calculation. You can start with small things. When working, instead of forcing perfection, breathe slowly and notice the feeling in your hands. When talking to someone, instead of trying to understand or persuade, just listen with an open heart. When something goes wrong, don't rush to fix it. Let it show itself and see what truth lies behind it. As Master Kayan said, the fabric is soft because the weaver is not tense. Likewise, life is peaceful because the one living it knows how to let go. When you go to sleep tonight, remember you don't need to control your breath to rest. Just breathe softly and let the body relax. Imagine your mind as a thread in the wind, neither tight nor loose, just gently moving with the flow. If a thought arises, don't push it away. Let it come, then fade like wind through bamboo. If a strong emotion appears, don't suppress it. Just breathe and watch it dissolve in your breath. The night will teach you what the day makes us forget. Nothing needs to be controlled. Even sleep cannot be made to happen. It comes only when you stop trying. In that moment, you'll understand why the Buddha called following the flow the path of wisdom. Because when we stop forcing, we return to unity with the universe, where breath, wind, and mind move as one. When you realize that fabric softens only when the hands that weave are relaxed, you'll see something deeper. The Dharma cannot be heard by ears that cling. The next story, The Sound of Water in a Teacup, by Master Nanso, tells of a guest who wished to hear the sound of Dharma. Master Nanso poured tea, trying to control the sound of the water to please his guest, but the more he tried, the more the sound lost its harmony. Only when he stopped silent and attentive did the true Dharma reveal itself, because Dharma does not lie in the hands that control it, lives in the heart that listens. And like the thread in the wind, when you stop trying to make everything right, life begins to play its own melody, gentle, peaceful, and full of awareness. Have you ever noticed the harder you try to listen, the less you actually hear? When we listen to someone with a mind full of expectations, what we truly hear is only the echo of our own thoughts. When we strive for peace, that very effort becomes the wall separating us from stillness. In Zen, there is a beautiful paradox. The more you try to grasp the Dharma, the farther it slips away. But when you release your grip, the Dharma reveals itself just as the moon appears, only when the lake's surface stops rippling. A Zen master once said, "The Dharma is not something to be attained, but what is happening right now. Like the sound of flowing water, you only need to be silent and it speaks on its own. But if you try to grasp it all, you hear is the noise of your own hands." And one afternoon at Nanso Monastery, a visitor arrived with a question both simple and profound. "Master, please, let me hear the sound of the Dharma." That afternoon, the spring wind moved gently through the pine branches, carrying a faint scent of jasmine into the meditation hall. The late sunlight leaned through the wooden walls, bathing the room in a golden glow, soft as the breath of evening. On a small charcoal stove, a clay teapot simmered, releasing tiny bubbles that sounded like the heartbeat of silence itself. Master Nanso sat before the wooden table preparing tea for his guest. The visitor knelt respectfully, his face showing both reverence and anxiety. His voice trembled slightly, carrying a deep longing within it. "I have read sutras and studied the Dharma for years. I heard that some can hear the sound of the Dharma, that truth can be revealed in every sound. Please, Master, let me hear that sound." The Zen master smiled softly but said nothing. He lifted the teapot, raised a cup, and began to pour. The water flowed steadily clear, rhythmic like rain falling on bamboo leaves. The guest closed his eyes and listened. After a while, he opened them, disappointment clouding his face. "I only hear the sound of water, Master." The master's smile did not fade. He poured again this time, slower, gentler. The sound became a whisper, but the guest still shook his head. "No. That's still the sound of water, not the sound of the Dharma." Master Nanso slightly furrowed his brow, then lifted the pot higher. The water fell harder into the cup, splashing loudly. When he stopped, the sound broke off abruptly. He tilted, paused, tilted again as though trying to control the rhythm. The room grew thick with tension. The once soft sound of water became harsh, uneven, losing all harmony. After a moment, the master set down the pot and asked quietly, "When I tried to control the sound, what did you hear?" The guest thought for a while, then answered softly, "I heard the water being cut off, and the sound of your hand trembling as you held the pot." The master nodded gently, his gaze calm. "Yes. When the mind tries to possess the sound disappears. The Dharma is not in the water, nor in the pot. It appears only when we stop trying to hear." He lifted the teapot once more and poured again. This time there was no effort, no intention. Just the natural flow of water moved by gravity light, steady, unforced. The sound filled the room, not hurried, not broken, not perfect, but whole in its own rhythm, the rhythm of the present moment. The guest suddenly felt everything around him slow down. Even the wind outside seemed to pause and listen. The familiar sound of water deepened into something vast, as if it were not only flowing into the cup, but through his heart. In that moment, he was no longer listening with his ears, but with his entire being. There was no water, no listener. Only one continuous flow, silent and boundless. The master spoke in a whisper so soft, it seemed the wind itself carried his words. That sound of water is the sound of the Dharma. The Dharma is not what we create. It's what we realize when the mind stops trying to grasp. Outside, the sun faded behind the old roof tiles. The scent of jasmine drifted in the breeze. The sound of water continued gentle as if it had never ceased. Master Nanso's story seems simple, just the act of pouring tea. But within it lies the essence of Zen. The Dharma is not an object for a controlling mind, but the realm of a quiet one. The mind always wants to possess, to experience enlightenment, to hear truth, to understand reality. That very wanting is the obstacle. The Dharma does not appear when we seek it, it appears when we stop seeking. Like a pond, when stirred it clouds. When left alone, it clears. Stillness is not created. It reveals itself when we stop disturbing it. The Buddha once said, "The Dharma does not come from outside, nor is it made by effort." When one releases false thought, the Dharma naturally reveals itself. Modern psychology calls this the paradox of control. The more we try to achieve calm, the more the brain activates stress regions. But when we simply observe, the areas for clarity and relaxation open up. This is the foundation of mindfulness meditation. In the story, when the master tried to control the water, the sound became broken, symbolizing a mind scattered by its own will. But when he released control, letting the water flow naturally, the sound became whole, because at that moment, there was no controller, only the Dharma, moving through stillness. In life, we are often like that guest. We want to hear the sound of Dharma in all we do to find meaning, peace, answers. But that very wanting pulls us away from reality. A person who wants to hear peace runs everywhere searching for quiet. A person who longs for love overlooks the one standing before them. A person chasing success loses the joy of the journey. All come from one root, the grasping mind. We want to possess peace, truth, and outcomes. But the Dharma cannot be possessed. It can only be seen when the desire to see dissolves. Look closely. When you wash dishes, if your mind is focused on finishing quickly, you miss the warmth of the water running through your hands. But if you simply wash fully present, that water is the sound of the Dharma. When you walk without rushing anywhere, each step becomes the Dharma revealing itself through you. That is hearing the sound of water in a teacup, not a mystical sound, but the moment you are fully awake in what already is. Science now confirms this. When people practice mindful presence, full awareness in the now, heart rate, blood pressure, and brain waves drop into deep relaxation. The mind moves into alpha frequency, the state of natural clarity and peace. That is when the Dharma speaks within us through the smallest acts of living. Tonight, before you sleep, you can try this. Don't try to fall asleep. Just listen to your own breath as if hearing water being poured into a cup. Don't control the rhythm. Just observe it passing like a stream flowing by. If you hear a sound outside, don't resist it and don't wish it away. Listen to it too, as if you are hearing the breath of the universe itself. Then you will realize every sound is the Dharma as long as your mind no longer resists. Sleep-like meditation doesn't come from effort, it comes from letting go. No one can force themselves to sleep, just as no one can force themselves to be still. Both happen only when we no longer try, And in that silence you may hear the sound of water in a teacup, the sound of life itself flowing gently within you, needing no control. Once you hear the Dharma in a cup of tea, you will understand something even deeper. We do not master. Time is already present in every breath. The next story tells of a young monk who constantly watched the clock, fearing to miss the moment for chanting. But one day, the clock stopped, and the chanting still continued. In that instant, he realized, when we stop trying to control time, time returns to us. Just like the sound of water in a teacup, when you stop searching for the Dharma begins to speak within you. Have you ever felt like you were racing against time, running to make it to an appointment, a goal, a dream not yet fulfilled? But the harder you try, the more you feel like you're falling behind. Not because the clock hands move too fast, but because your mind has lost the rhythm of the present moment. In life, there are two kinds of people, those who live in time and those who let time live within them. The first are always afraid of losing something, while the second understand there is nothing to lose, because everything unfolds exactly when it needs to. One day, someone asked a Zen master, "Master, how can I slow down in a world that moves so fast?" The master replied, "Don't try to slow down. Learn to be present, because when your mind rests in this moment, time is no longer a pursuer. It becomes a companion." The story of the young monk at Ensho Monastery shows this truth clearly. He lived by the clock in his hand until the day it stopped, and only then did he hear the true rhythm of life. It was early morning at a small temple on the mountainside. The sun had not fully risen, dew still clung to the pine branches, and the sound of chanting echoed softly from the meditation hall, deep and steady, like the breath of the earth itself. Amid that sound, a young monk sat silently before an old clock hanging on a wooden pillar. He was the timekeeper of the monastery, responsible for the schedule of chanting meals, walking meditation, and rest. Every activity began with the bell he rang precisely to the second. He saw this precision as a sign of mindfulness. Each morning he checked the hands of the clock again and again, afraid it might run too fast or too slow. If the bell rang early, he felt uneasy. If it rang late, he bowed in apology. The senior monks often teased him. "You live more with the clock than with your own breath." He would smile, but silently think, if it isn't exact, how can it be called meditation? Then came a rainy morning. Wind blew from the bamboo forest, wetting the doorway and the wooden post where the clock hung. Moisture entered the mechanism, the clock stopped. He didn't notice. When he looked up and saw the hand still pointing to 7, he panicked. It's late. The bell hasn't rung. He rushed to the hall and struck the bell repeatedly. The sound echoed through the damp air. But then he realized the chanting had already begun. The monks were already reciting in unison, calm and rhythmic. He froze, hand still gripping the rope. The clock had stopped, but time had not. No one needed his bell. Everything was happening exactly when it should, without his control. After the chanting, he went to see the abbot, trembling. "Master, I made a mistake. The clock stopped and I didn't know. Yet everyone still began on time. The abbot looked at him kindly, because time doesn't live in the clock, it lives in the mind. When the mind knows the right moment, no hands are needed. The young monk fell silent. The master continued. All these years, you've watched the face of the clock, but forgotten the face of the sun. You measure time in seconds, but not in breaths. That's why you are always afraid of being late. He bowed deeply as if light had just entered his heart. A question rose from within him. Master, if we don't follow time, how do we know what is the right moment? The master smiled. When you live fully in each moment, every moment is right. When your mind is still, even if the clock stands still, the Dharma still flows. From that day, the young monk still kept time, but without the weight of it. Each time he rang the bell, he paused, took a deep breath, and let the sound fade naturally into the mountain air. He listened not only to the bell, but also to the silence between the tones. And in that silence, he realized something simple. Time had never left him. It was always here. In every breath, every heartbeat of the present. It seems like a simple story, yet it touches one of the deepest struggles of modern life, our obsession with time. We count time, plan it, schedule it, but the more we do, the farther we drift from the present. In Zen, time isn't the flow of a clock, it's the flow of awareness. When the mind is still, we live in the eternal present, where there is no past, no future, only the now. The Buddha once said, "No one can hold on to tomorrow nor return to yesterday. The wise live only in this moment." Master Ensho wanted to remind us, time is never lost, only the mind gets lost. When the clock stops, time doesn't end. It simply gives us a chance to see that real time is not in objects, but in awareness. Modern psychology calls this time distortion. When we're anxious, time feels slow. When we're peaceful, time disappears. It shows that time is not fixed, it depends on the state of mind. When mindfulness deepens, every moment becomes rich and full. A single breath can contain 100 years. But when the mind is scattered, a lifetime can pass without truly living a single minute. Zen teaches us not to see time as an enemy, but as a river. We don't have to hold it, just flow with it. When the young monk let go of the clock, he didn't lose discipline, he found freedom. Because mindfulness doesn't destroy order, it makes order natural. In daily life, many of us live like the timekeeper. We schedule every task, but rarely keep time for the mind. We fear being late for appointments, but are late for our own lives. Those who fear being late have never truly arrived. Because when the mind is running, how can it hear the true heartbeat of time? There are moments you cannot plan, you can only let them unfold. Like meditation, you cannot force awakening. You can only notice that you are not awake. And the moment you see, that is awakening itself. Likewise, you cannot control time, but you can stop and listen to its rhythm in your heart. That is when you become part of the flow instead of being swept away by it. A Stanford University study found that people who practice mindful breathing regularly perceive time as moving slower and experience 40% less stress. Because they are not racing, they are walking in step with the present. Time has never been the enemy. When you learn to be still, you'll see. No past ever truly leaves. No future ever truly arrives. There is only one endless present breathing with you. That's why in Buddhism, this moment is called the time of awakening. Not tomorrow, not the next life, but right now as you listen, breathe and live. Tonight before you sleep, try stopping everything. Put your phone down, turn off the alarm, and just listen to your own breath. You don't need to count or breathe correctly. Just notice the breath goes in, the breath goes out. If a thought about tomorrow appears, let it pass like a drifting cloud. If a memory returns, don't chase it away, just recognize it's passing. The moment you stop trying to control sleep will come naturally soft as a temple bell in the night. Just like the young monk who discovered that even when the clock stopped, time still moved on. When you stop, life continues to unfold, but in a deeper, quieter, truer rhythm. Let go of the clock and you'll hear the heartbeat again. Let go of control and you'll feel life breathing with you. That is mindfulness, not a frozen stillness, but complete presence amid life's constant motion. When we stop trying to control time, we no longer need to control people. Like a flowing river, everyone has their own rhythm, their own destiny. If you force it, the connection breaks. If you let go, light will enter like sunrise, shining through the clock whose hands have stopped. The next story tells of a Zen student who wrote a letter blaming the one who hurt him. But before sending it, his master said, "If you send it, you are still trying to control another's feelings. If you burn it, you begin to heal your own." That is the next step of letting go. Letting go of control over others, so inner freedom can begin. Inside each of us, there are letters never sent. Not only words written on paper, but things left unsaid, wounds not released, expectations not closed. How many times have you asked yourself, why did that person hurt me? Why didn't they understand me even though I was sincere? And so you write, not to get answers, but to release the anger and sadness. Yet the more you write, the more emotions rise. Each word seems to reopen an old wound. We tend to believe that if the other person knows our pain, they will change regret and finally understand. But that rarely happens. Because when we write to make someone else understand, we are still trying to control their feelings instead of healing our own. The story of a young monk from the ancient Khotan monastery illustrates this truth clearly. He carried a deep wound, thinking that if he could just express it, he would be free. But he discovered that true liberation came through silence. It was late afternoon at the monastery. The sky was tinted with a soft orange glow. Maple leaves scattered across the courtyard as the breeze carried the faint scent of tea smoke from the kitchen. In a quiet room at the end of the hallway, a young monk sat at a wooden desk holding a brush, his face heavy with thought. He had been struggling with a quiet conflict with a fellow monk. One careless remark from the other had pierced his pride like a knife. For many nights he lay awake turning over one question in his mind. Why did he treat me that way? Unable to bear it any longer, he decided to write a letter. Each word he wrote was as heavy as a tear not yet shed. He poured out everything: his hurt, his sense of injustice, the pain he couldn't express in words. The more he wrote, the harder the brush pressed, as though his anger was flowing through the ink. When finished, the letter spanned several pages full of emotion and reason. He looked at it and sighed in relief. If he reads this, he'll understand. He'll regret it. He folded the letter carefully, sealed it in an envelope, and went to ask permission from Master Khoten to send it. The master was sitting in the garden scattering handfuls of rice for the sparrows. After listening to his student, the master said nothing. He turned the envelope over in his hands, then asked softly, "Why did you write this letter?" "To help him understand me, master. To let him know how deeply I was hurt." The master looked at him with kind but penetrating eyes. "Do you truly want him to understand? Or do you want him to feel guilty?" The question froze him in place. The master continued slowly, "If you send the letter, you're trying to control someone else's emotions. But if you burn it, you're beginning to heal your own." The young monk looked up stunned. "Master, do you mean I must stay silent even when I've been hurt?" The master smiled gently. "Not silence out of fear, but silence to see. When you write, you only see the faults of others. But when you burn the letter, you begin to see your own mind." Then the master placed the letter before him and poured more tea. "Don't send it yet. Read it again, not to blame him, but to understand yourself." He did as told. Each line appeared before him like a mirror of his inner state. He began to realize that much of what he wrote was not pure pain, but wounded pride. Many words he thought were honest were actually an attempt to prove he was right. Every sentence revealed a crack in his heart. His hands trembled. Tears fell onto the paper. The master spoke gently. "You see, what you call truth in that letter is only a passing emotion. Like the wind, it comes and goes. If you send it, you trap that wind in another's heart. But if you burn it, you let it return to the sky, and what remains is silence." The young monk bowed his head. In silence, he picked up the letter and lit it. The paper burned to ash. The smoke rose into the evening air. As each ember fell, he felt lighter, as if a knot inside him had loosened. The master poured more tea. The warm steam drifted softly between them. He said in a voice as light as breath, "Do you see forgiveness is not a gift you give to others, it's a gift you give to yourself." Outside, the maple leaves kept falling, and inside that small room only the scent of warm tea and a newly freed soul remained. The unsent letter is a symbol of the mind's desire to control. We often believe that if we speak, we can make others change, understand, or take responsibility for our feelings. But in Zen teaching, all suffering begins from one root, wanting to control what cannot be controlled. Other people are not objects for us to mold. Their minds, their karma, their experiences all move according to their own causes and conditions. Trying to make someone understand you is like trying to hold the wind. The tighter you grasp, the faster it disappears. In Buddhism, forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, it means seeing clearly. Seeing that emotions are only waves upon the surface of the water. Seeing that the other person is also lost in ignorance just like we are. And when we see clearly, the mind lets go on its own. Modern psychology points to the same truth. When we hold on to anger, the brain releases cortisol, the stress hormone. But when we let go, even by simply breathing deeply for a few minutes, the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for compassion and awareness, activates. Letting go is not only a spiritual act, it's a biological process of healing. Master Khoten didn't teach his disciple to stay silent out of endurance, but out of wisdom. When you write a letter to make someone know, you are still trapped in the ego that wants to be understood. But when you burn the letter, you realize you don't need anyone to understand, you just need peace in your heart. In your own life, you've probably had a letter never sent. Maybe a message you never dared to send. A conversation you almost had but didn't. A moment of anger you stopped halfway through. In those moments, if you are mindful enough, you'll see not speaking isn't weakness, it's strength born of understanding. Whenever you are hurt, ask yourself, do I want the other person to understand, or do I want to stop hurting? If it's the second, then the first thing to do isn't to send the letter, it's to breathe. Letting go of control over others doesn't mean indifference. It means realizing that everyone has their own path. How they treat you reflects their state of mind, not your worth. When you no longer wait for apologies, no longer need validation, no longer expect anyone to make it right, you step out of the prison your emotions built. A Harvard University study found that those who forgive and let go of expecting others to regret have steadier heart rates, sleep more deeply, and feel 35% happier. Because forgiveness isn't just morality, it's wisdom that refuses to suffer. Tonight, before you sleep, if something still disturbs your heart, don't rush to write a letter to someone else. Write it to yourself. Write down what you feel: sadness, anger, disappointment, without hiding. Then look at those words as if you're watching your own heart cry out in pain. When you realize that the mind is hurting, not "they hurt me," you're already halfway to peace. Then if you wish, burn that letter. Not to forget, but to set your heart free. As the flame dies out, take a deep breath and close your eyes. You'll find your heart no longer feels empty, but light. Like the monk in the story, after burning his letter, he lost nothing. He simply reclaimed what he had long lost: inner stillness. Let your mind rest like ashes after a fire, warm, quiet, and free from the shape of pain. Only in that state can you truly hear your own breath and understand healing doesn't come from another's apology, but from your own letting go. When you can burn your own letter, you've released part of the self that wants control. And then you will see a greater truth. Not only people, but also nature, weather, and life itself. Nothing happens according to our will. The next story tells of a student sweeping leaves in the temple courtyard, angry when sudden rain soaked away his hard work. The master gently said, "The rain knows no fault. Only your mind wants to rule the heavens, and when he understood, the lake within him became calm again. Because only when we accept that nature doesn't follow our will can we truly begin to hear ourselves. Have you ever been angry at things you couldn't change? Angry because it rained when you needed sunshine. Angry because someone didn't understand you. Angry because life didn't follow your plan. We often believe that if we try hard enough, we can control everything: the weather, our work, even other people's emotions. But in truth, that very desire to be in control is the root of our restlessness. In Zen, there is a simple yet difficult truth to learn. Only when we accept that nature and life itself does not obey us can we truly begin to hear ourselves. One morning at Rensho Monastery, when a sudden rain began to fall, a young monk learned this lesson. It wasn't found in scripture, but in the sound of raindrops falling upon an unsettled heart. The sky had just begun to brighten. Cherry blossoms glistened with dew under the soft light of dawn. In the courtyard, a young novice was sweeping leaves, a daily task he loved. He enjoyed seeing the courtyard neat and clean, the leaves gathered into tidy piles, the red-brown bricks shining in the early sun. For him, that was peace, order, clarity, perfection. But that morning, just as he finished sweeping, dark clouds rolled in. Wind rose and heavy rain poured down. Within minutes, the leaves scattered again, and the water washed away all his work. He stood frozen, gripping the broom tightly. Everything he had just done was undone. A surge of anger rose within him, not at the leaves, but at the feeling of helplessness. He thought, why now? Why can't things go my way just once? He threw the broom to the ground, his breath sharp, his eyes full of frustration. Just then, Master Rensho walked by. The master looked at him, then at the rain-soaked courtyard, and asked calmly, "Who are you angry with, my child?" The novice bowed his head and said, "I'm angry at the rain. I just finished cleaning and it ruined everything." The master smiled gently. "The rain knows no fault, my child. Only your mind wants to command the heavens." The boy looked up, confused. "But if I don't sweep, the yard will be dirty. If I don't do it, everything will be in disorder." The master stepped up onto the veranda, his gaze turning toward the pond before the temple. Raindrops fell upon its surface, forming ripples that spread, met, and faded away. "Look," he said, "the pond does not try to stay still. When the rain falls, it trembles, then becomes calm again. It doesn't resent the rain nor try to avoid it, it simply allows." He bent down, picked up a wet leaf, and placed it on his palm. The leaf falls because of the wind blows because of conditions, and the rain comes because of the sky. Nothing is at fault. Only when your mind insists that life must follow your will do you suffer. The novice said nothing. The sound of rain mixed with the distant murmur of a stream, forming a steady, tranquil rhythm. After a while, he picked up the broom again. This time his sweeping was slower, gentler. He no longer tried to fight the rain, he simply swept as a way of listening to himself. The master watched with kind eyes. "You cannot keep the courtyard clean forever, just as you cannot make life go your way. but you can keep your mind clear in any condition. When you are no longer angry at the rain, you will see that even falling leaves are part of the way. The rain gradually stopped. Sunlight broke through, casting golden reflections across the wet courtyard. On the pond's surface, the ripples faded, revealing a clear sky. The temple remained the same, but the boy had changed. He no longer sought peace in a perfect courtyard, but in a quiet heart amid imperfection. The story of Master Rensho is a reflection of modern life. People today don't just want to control the weather, they want to control everything: work, others, outcomes, emotions. But the more we try to control, the more anxious we become. In Buddhist teaching, this is called the ignorance of self-attachment. We believe that if we try hard enough, we can make the world turn our way. But the Dharma does not follow anyone's will. It moves according to causes and conditions, a natural order beyond our small self. When the young monk grew angry at the rain, he wasn't truly angry at the rain. He was angry at his inability to control it. Just as we are not angry because someone spoke wrongly, but because we wanted them to speak the way we wished. We fear life's turns, not because the new path is bad, but because we are not the ones holding the map. The Buddha once taught, "All suffering arises from wanting the world to be different." When we stop demanding that the world change, our mind begins to change instead. That is the path of letting go, not giving up, but releasing resistance. Modern psychology calls this the illusion of control. People tend to believe they control more than they actually do. When things don't go as planned, we respond with anger, anxiety, or self-blame. But studies show that those who accept they cannot control everything recover emotionally faster, experience less stress, and live more peacefully. From the Zen perspective, letting go of control is not passivity. It is wisdom in action, doing one's best without clinging to results. Like the monk sweeping the yard, he sweeps not to keep it forever clean, but to keep his mind clear with each movement. In life, we often get angry at the rain like that young student. The rain could be a person who disappointed us, a sudden event that ruined our plans, an illness, a loss, or a harsh word that stopped us in our tracks. When we resist the rain, we are trying to rule the heavens. But when we accept it, the rain simply becomes part of the day. If something upsets you today, a comment, a setback, a plan that didn't go as you hoped, pause and breathe. Ask yourself, does it really need to be different? Or is it enough that my heart sees differently? When we stop trying to control, we begin to live more deeply in each moment. When we stop demanding others to change, we can finally hear our own heart. When we stop fearing the rain, we see that it too is poetry. A study from the University of Wisconsin found that people who practice accepting reality in meditation, that is not resisting emotions or circumstances, show 30% lower brain activity in stress-related regions. They aren't happier because life is easier, but because they've learned to walk in the rain without getting wet. The world will never be perfect, but the mind can be peaceful if it knows how to rest amid imperfection. Like a lake, it doesn't need to control the rain, only to be deep enough for the raindrops not to stir its surface. Tonight, If your mind feels restless over something that didn't go your way, remember the lake. Don't try to stop the rain, and don't pray for sun. Just be still and let your thoughts fall like raindrops upon water. Listen to your breath. Feel the warmth of your hands resting where they are. If a tear falls, let it fall. It is only another kind of rain of feeling of life of karma. When the mind accepts sleep, comes like a breeze after the storm, effortless, unforced. Just know everything is unfolding exactly when it should. As the Zen master once said, no raindrop ever falls in the wrong place. Only the restless mind cannot stand still long enough to see its circle. When we learn to let the rain fall without resistance, we begin to understand a deeper layer of letting go. Not just letting go of nature, but of karma itself, the invisible threads that bind us to all things. The next story tells of a man who came to Master Shoko pleading, "Please teach me how to control my own karma." The master handed him a thin thread and said, "If you hold it too tight, it breaks. If you loosen it, it becomes a circle." That is the story of the thread of destiny, where we learn that true strength comes not from holding on, but from letting go. Human beings often carry a quiet longing, the desire to control their own lives. We want to know what will happen tomorrow. We want everything to go according to our plans. Love, work, health, even karma itself. But the tighter we try to hold on, the more life seems to slip through our fingers. We make plans, yet conditions fail to align. We try to hold on, yet people still leave. And in that disappointment, we ask ourselves, why do the very things I tried hardest to control become the ones that cause me the most pain? Perhaps because karma is not something to control, but something to understand and accept. It is like a stream of water. The more you try to dam it, the higher it rises. Only when you open yourself can you see the water flowing through you without drowning you. This story begins in an old Zen monastery where morning mist still covered mossy stones. A man came to Master Shoko with a desperate plea. "Please, Master, teach me how to control my own karma." And with nothing but a single thread, the master gave him an answer that would change his entire view of life about how to let go and how to trust. That morning in the quiet garden behind the temple, a soft breeze passed through the drooping willow branches beside the pond. The water shimmered with early sunlight, gently rippling as if it were breathing. Master Shoko sat by the veranda, slowly weaving an old bamboo basket. Light filtered through the leaves above, scattering faint golden streaks across his robe like brushstrokes of dawn. From the temple gate, a middle-aged man entered. His face was marked with fatigue. His eyes carried an unnamed confusion. He bowed deeply and spoke in a hoarse voice. "Master, I have tried to live righteously. I keep the precepts I give. I avoid wrongdoing. Yet bad karma still finds me. Every time I think I've mastered my fate, life turns against me. Please teach me how to control my karma, so I won't be led by it anymore." Master Shoko said nothing. He set down the basket, stood, and quietly went inside. A few moments later, he returned, holding a thin thread fine as morning dew. He placed it gently into the man's hand. "Take this," he said, his voice calm like the wind over the pond. "This is the thread of destiny." The man looked at the fragile thread, puzzled. "What should I do with it, master?" "Hold it tightly," Shoko replied, "and see what happens." The man did as told. As soon as he clenched his hand, the thread snapped in two. Startled, he exclaimed, "It broke." The master looked at him calmly. "You've just done what you've been doing with your life. When you try to control everything, you tighten your grip, and that very tension breaks the flow of karma, just as your hand broke the thread." Shoko bent down, picked up the two pieces, and gently tied them together so delicately that even the breeze would not disturb the knot. Then he placed it back in the man's hand. "Now," he said, "relax." The man inhaled deeply and loosened his grip. The two strands fell softly, intertwining into a small circle. Shoko smiled. "Do you see? When you stop trying to control the thread, naturally forms a circle, the symbol of Dharma, of the natural order. Without effort, everything returns to its place." The man looked at the thread in his palm, his eyes softening. "I understand now, Master. All this time I tried to control my karma, but that very desire to control was the root of new karma." The master nodded. "When you try to grasp life, you resist the flow of Dharma. But when you let go, the Dharma guides you in the right direction. True strength doesn't come from control, but from trust. Trust that everything unfolds according to its conditions." A light breeze drifted through. The thread trembled in the man's hand, reflecting sunlight like a strand of golden silk. He looked at it for a long time and smiled softly like the wind itself. No more grasping, no more striving, only the quiet peace of someone who finally understood sometimes letting go isn't losing, but returning to the flow that was always your own. In Zen, karma is not a punishment, but the natural reflection of cause and condition. Every action, word, and thought creates a small wave upon the ocean of the mind. When we try to control karma, we only create more waves, like someone trying to still water by pressing it down with their hands. The harder they press, the rougher the ripples become. Only by stopping does the surface become calm again. Through the simple image of a thread, Master Shoko revealed this truth. When held tightly, representing desire, fear, and control, it breaks. When relaxed, representing release and trust in conditions, it becomes a circle. That circle symbolizes the natural Dharma, whole, sufficient, effortless. In the Samyutta Nikaya, the Buddha once said, "No one can control karma by will, but one who understands karma no longer fears it." This is the essence of Zen wisdom. To understand is not to control. To let go is not to abandon. It is to see how life unfolds within the stillness of the mind. Modern psychology says something similar. Researcher Daniel Wagner described the ironic control effect. The more we try to control our thoughts, the less control we have. For example, if you try not to think about a white bear, that very effort makes the image appear even more vividly. Likewise, when we try to control karma, people, or outcomes, we become bound by the very things we wish to avoid. Looking back on your life, you might notice your most painful moments didn't come from losing something, but from not being able to let go. We try to hold on to everything: loved ones, careers, status, the past. But life is a river, and clinging only leaves us stranded. Many say, "I've let go, but it still hurts." That's because they've released only on the outside, while inside they're still holding on. True letting go means releasing attachment to outcomes and allowing the mind to flow naturally with causes and conditions. Letting go is not giving up. It's stopping the struggle with what cannot be controlled. When you give your best, then relax. Your energy finds balance. Science calls this the flow state, when one stops forcing and simply moves with the present moment. In that state, the brain reduces control activity and increases intuition and awareness. And from that creativity, peace and happiness arise. Just like the monk who learned to accept the rain, the student of Shoko learned to accept the flow of karma. 2 stories, 1 truth. When we stop resisting what lies beyond our control, we begin to live truly within what lies inside our heart. Letting go doesn't make us weak. It makes us strong, because only when we no longer need control do we find real freedom. If tonight your mind feels heavy, worried that tomorrow may go wrong, remember the image of the thread. Close your eyes, breathe in deeply, exhale slowly. Imagine holding a fine thread between your fingers. If you tighten your grip, it breaks. If you relax, it softens and forms a perfect circle. Let your mind be like that thread, not stretched by anxiety, not bound by fear, but gentle, open, and trusting the flow of life to weave its own pattern. With each breath, you reconnect to your original peace. The noise of thought fades and sleep comes naturally, soft as a breeze, effortless as water. You don't need to try to sleep, because the trying itself keeps you awake. Just let go and trust that everything is already in its right place. The story of the thread is not only a lesson about karma, but a mirror for the mind. The tighter the mind clings, the more it strains. The more it relaxes, the gentler and more complete it becomes. In every aspect of life, love, work, health, the same truth applies. Letting go is not giving up, but trusting the unfolding of the Dharma. For when we trust, we no longer fear. And when fear ends, everything moves in harmony with existence itself. And that's when we understand true strength comes not from holding on, but from letting go. When we release the illusion of control, we don't lose power. We discover the deeper strength of alignment with life's flow. Life has never been in anyone's hands. It moves according to the Dharma, according to causes, conditions, and the rhythm of the universe. The more we try to force it to obey our will, the more anxiety we create. But when we stop, open our hearts, and trust, everything begins to arrange itself in the most natural way. The Buddha once taught, when you stop resisting, you begin to understand the flow of causes and conditions. And in that understanding, fear dissolves. You no longer need to control anything, for you see clearly that everything has its place in the journey of awakening. Remember, letting go does not mean neglect. It is an act of wisdom, of faith that the Dharma always moves as it should, even when we cannot yet see the outcome. Just as the river knows how to find the sea, your life too will find its way to peace if you stop steering it with the ropes of fear and control. When night comes, Let your mind rest. Don't force sleep. Let it arrive like a gentle wind. All noise will fade, leaving only the quiet stillness of a mind that knows how to let go. Thank you for walking with us through this journey of letting go and control. If these reflections have touched your heart, please subscribe to Buddhism Seeds. Like, share, and leave a comment below so we can continue nurturing the seed of mindfulness together. May you have a peaceful night. Sleep deeply like a calm river, for when your mind lets go, the universe flows naturally for you.